my curiosity is piqued. So you're saying you would do that, and you're saying that we wouldn't?
I'm saying that you would not be willing. So
I'm asking
you're arguing.
You
and here's the thing: you're arguing. So genocide.
Answer
Okay, so you're arguing that United States should step in. No, so I want to clarify what Lactoid is saying.
Topic 2. A new drug to treat people afflicted with ALS costs $158,000 per year. This has put an onerous burden on those who need it. Even with insurance, some people have co-pays as high as $4,000 per month. Should the U.S. step in and either limit the price of the drug or make a government-produced alternative? Or is the market working fine even when people can't afford the medication? So yeah, new drug, it's exactly what you I think it is. If you're familiar with the U.S. Healthcare system, then this isn't a new story to you. But it's not life-saving because nothing can save the life of a person with ALS. It's just gives them more time, really. But it still is important for them. So is this acceptable at this price point? Especially the company says, you know, it reflects the amount of work they put into it. So we'll start with our friend Lactoid.
On principle, if I'm using my labor to make a product, you don't get a portion of it just because you need it. To assume so is to assume that you are owed my labor just because you exist, which is the foundation of slavery. It just is. On pragmatics, there is a reason why the U.S. has the highest medical innovation rate of any nation. There's a reason why we're making these drugs in the first place. And it's because making drugs in the US is profitable. There's a massive profit incentive there. That said, the prices could be a lot lower and still profitable, and the drugs could still be profitable if it weren't for all the FDA's requirements. As the article states, the FDA clinical trials are not cheap to go through. The whole process is not cheap to go through, and you have to make that money back on the tail end. Further, the drug manufacturer also expressed that they are providing the medication for free and waiving copays for indigent patients. You know, no matter how you look at it, we should not be instituting price controls here. They're handling it the best way they can.
Thank you, Scott. Please.
Yeah. So, on principle, I don't give a fuck what any company charges anything. The idea that we would initiate price controls and have additional socialism into our system is, well, it's just stupid. There are plenty of medications that are extremely expensive, right? The idea that because a medication is life-saving, we should come up with the funds from other people involuntarily is insane. For example, there is a medication called Zolgensma from Novartis Gene Therapies, right? That helps children that have spinal muscular issues be able to develop their muscles. It costs $177,000 per month. It is incredibly expensive. For a year of therapy, of this gene therapy, it's about $2.125 million, right? The idea, like, should we just come up with the funds to do that? Eventually, like, you're not going to be able to come up with the funds for certain medications. That said, you're right. It's way too expensive, and it is exploitative, and it is horrendous and evil. And the reason is because the government creates intellectual property in the Food and Drug Administration. These two entities completely destroy the ability for a free market to exist. We should abolish IP. And it's very simple that these people would very easily, if we got rid of the FDA and IP, doctors would just prescribe the previous drug combined with the herbal medicine that is in this drug, and they would write it off from a different company, and you would be getting the exact same treatment for a $25 copay. But the problem is that the FDA is a monopoly that says what can and can't be approved. And intellectual property says that once I make something, nobody else can create a copy of said thing because I have the intellectual rights to this. And it is, it's anti-free market as far as I'm concerned. It's anti-freedom, and it's causing drug prices to be way too high.
Very proud of you, Scott. This is one of your shortest opening statements you've ever had.
Oh gosh,
that was short.
He's growing. Okay, baby steps. I got to encourage him. Let's go to Corey.
What I will say is I'm actually in agreement with Scott about the IP. I'm all for abolishing IP. IP is stupid and hurts many things. But I'll make my position clear. I don't think, as a Canadian, just like Lactoid, nobody should be paying for medication. It should be free. Just as healthcare should be free. I am not for banning the FDA. And to sort of touch upon Lactoid's point about, medical innovation, it's like, yeah, medical innovation in the context of like your leading cause of disease, like heart disease, cancer, stroke, all like lifestyle related disease, like you need to innovate for, pretty much like self-inflicted wounds. So I would say, as a result of your self-inflicted wounds, your innovation isn't actually going to where it's actually needed. But I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. Let's go to Ruminate.
Yeah, so I think Lactoid described some of the issues with it, as far as like the company Amelix. They say that they intend to offer it either completely free or discounted to the uninsured or non-insured, which is nice. As to the general question whether or not the free market is working in this case, I don't think so. $158,000 is absurd. I think by one estimate it was like 5 times the projected high-end value of what it would take to make the drug in the first place. And as a matter of fact, I think the FDA kind of went about this like we don't have concrete proof that this medication is efficacious anyway, right? Like it was kind of accelerated because of the substantial unmet need for ALS treatment. So I think there's a pretty compelling case that the price should be closer to cost at the bare minimum until the drug is proven to be efficacious. So no, as far as like what the government should do, I mean, morally or spiritually, in terms of principle, I am perfectly open to price controls. The only reason I would not necessarily want to do that is if an economist or the economic consensus could persuade me that that would actually cause more harm in the long run, because I do know that there is some controversy about price controls. A lot of people say that it leads to shortages in supply and issues like that. So I am open to persuasion, but whether or not the government has the right to do it, I, of course, think they do, because we need to try to reduce this drug price as well as the price of other drugs, every drug, as much as possible. People's lives are at stake.
Well, apparently all of our tax money is being spent on frivolous lawsuits about misgendering people in public schools. So I'd much rather, if I'm going to be paying taxes, pay taxes to go towards medicine and other supplements in that regard that actually serve all of the community. I mean, I'm pro universal healthcare. I think it would solve all these problems. I do agree with some of what both Scott and Lactoid said, but I feel they used the wrong equation to get the right answer. Incredible price hiking in the insurance industry is out of control. These are the actual real reasons why medication prices are through the roof. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Thank you. Giga.
I think it's pretty simple. Life's not fair. We live in the United States of America, and at the end of the day, we've adopted capitalism to serve us, and it's very that simple. Reality, I'm sorry. Yeah. This drug costs upwards 10 million plus. I think it went into the trials itself. They're not even in stage 3. And although the drug itself, somebody made a moronic comment in your chat, and so, well, the drug costs this much to produce. It negates all the R&D that it went into it, not alone the money that went into the, like I said, the trials themselves. People don't take that into account. And number one. Number two, again, capitalism. United States of America. We, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, spend a vast majority of our wealth in the military and in other reasons that one can equate, maybe even consider wasteful. But the reality is, that is just who we are. I don't see you guys bitching or donating billions to Ukraine. So inevitably, although we want free healthcare, all right, your country is not in a position to also defend a country like Ukraine nearly as well as we are. So you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Thank you for that. Joe, please.
Yeah, I think Giga Tatum brought up some very great points, and a lot of these cool gentlemen on this panel made some great points. I, for one, don't hate poor people, so I think it should be free.
Okay, all right. For the opposite opinion of that, Doobie.
No, I actually agree. So it's not because I don't hate poor people. I do hate poor people.
That's exactly.
Most poor people, in my experience, are poor because they're poor people, like spiritually, mentally, personality-wise, behavior-wise. Like they're just bad people. But that being said, I do think that it should be free. I think a nation should take care of its people. I think this is one of the ways that we should do it. I think we should absolutely provide healthcare for all citizens, including medication.
Okay. All right. Open to the panel.
Lactoid, to again understand your position better. Like, so where do you stand on IP? Are you also in alignment with Scott?
So IP is probably the most difficult, like the single policy decision that I struggle with the most, more than anything else. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and unlike most other things, it's very difficult for me to nail down what I actually think. It's a very difficult thing. I will say this though, as long as we have the FDA clinical trial requirement, we need to have IP, because if you're going to go through all that expense of like doing it in the first place, how the fuck are you going to like justify that from a profit incentive if the second you come out with it, well, everyone else is just going to like vultures jump on and then just start mass producing themselves without having to pay anything for the R&D.
Well, so yeah,
hold on. Can I real quick, either Corey or Lactoid, for the audience, definitely not for me, could somebody please run down what IP means, what you're talking about?
Intellectual
property.
Intellectual property. The
Internet
idea
protocol.
the idea that copyright patents, in this case patents, the idea that like if you invent something that takes a lot of effort and a lot of R&D and a lot of legal hoops, especially with like the FDA and stuff, that you get a time period afterwards in which you get exclusive rights, a sort of temporary monopoly that you can try to recoup some of that money that you spent making it. The idea behind it is to encourage innovation, and there's a lot of studies that show that it does, and that's like why I struggle with it the most.
Thank you for illuminating that for the audience. Again, not for me.
Of course.
Yeah, and so Lactoid, it seems like your position is like, well, since these companies invested so heavily in creating this, magical drug, that they should, basically recoup the cost, and they should be profiting from that, right?
That's the pragmatic ideal. The deeper like philosophical ideal is like, what is it like? What does it mean to have ownership over an idea?
Yeah,
that's really difficult.
Yeah, and I just want to actually just call your attention to, like, I would encourage you to take any drug of your choosing, go through whatever the top 10 most profitable. No, as in terms of research.
Sure, yeah.
Do not inject. I am not
advocating
any consumption. But whatever, to go through the most profitable medications, track its actual full R&D from like conception to market. And what you're discounting is like a lot of the foundational research of any therapeutic is publicly funded. It occurs at the university level. And then from there, it gets adopted by private companies or like bought out from private companies. And then they're able to charge these exorbitant prices. As in like all the foundational groundwork is actually publicly funded through taxpayer dollars.
So, I mean, I'll engage with that argument in a second. If we're looking at pharma companies themselves, a friend of mine who's into stock trading, he had the idea of like basically a meme idea whenever we talk about it, how he's going to short pharma penny stocks in order to get rich. And the idea is most pharma companies, like they are some of the most unstable and volatile stocks there are, because they go bankrupt all the time.
I'm aware.
Yeah. So you know like how risky it is to get involved in that industry, right? Like if you start a company, most of the time you're not going to be one of these big players. You're going to get crushed, right? You're going to get just destroyed. And the off chance that your drug gets approved, or the off chance that it actually works, is like the rare scenario in which you're actually going to make some money to justify all the research that went into it in the first place. And the fact that so many of these pharma companies are going bankrupt when their research doesn't pan out, or when they're not, they don't enter in the market at the right time, or they're not addressing, the market demand for a particular drug. It's a very difficult industry, as you know. So it's not like there's these, all these pharma companies are super greedy. It's a very cutthroat world in which you have to like be incredibly lucky and good to win.
So what I would say is I'll also call to your attention to how much, because like the common argument, I'm not saying you're making this argument, but a lot of the pushback comes from like, well, they need to recoup the cost of like all their R&D, and they need to like profit, and then they reinvest in R&D. But like so,
And there are other expenses too.
yeah. So that's where I would call your attention, like, or to understand your position, as in like, are you in favor of like the marketing practices of pharmaceutical companies, as in like they invest billions in marketing, and for some pharmaceutical companies they invest more in marketing than actual R&D, and so like
for like the established ones, like Pfizer, I know that is the case, that they put a lot more money into marketing, partially because of their current market position to begin with. But there's a lot of downstream effects here, especially when it comes to maybe smaller pharma companies, which put much higher percentages of their income into R&D.
Yeah, because they have.
I mean, it probably just makes sense to. Yeah, I mean, so if you've got like a few products that actually make you money, and then you've got like this black hole you can throw money into, and maybe something will work, you probably want to market the products that are making money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah.
My new favorite drug is Rexulti, right? It's a rebranded, slightly different, basically barbiturate that they're marketing to give to people whose SSRIs don't work. So, oh, your depression medication didn't work. What you should do is you should take an antipsychotic on top of it. And oh, by the way, if you look at their clinical trials, it causes all kinds of fucking problems. With like 4% of people, even at the lowest dosage, getting akathisia. Right? Like, no, like I fucking hate these companies. And I think one of the biggest problems is that IP. You know, if you didn't have IP, what you would have is the only way that these companies could make this money would be through donations, through charity, through non-disclosure agreements, and first to market advantage. And the way that first to market advantage is so much stronger is if you're able to create cures instead of things that alleviate symptoms. Because when you have IP, you can spend money on research for things like prophylactics or things that reduce symptomology, because you know that you can constantly sell it over and over and over again. But when you know that you're mostly just going to have NDAs and first to market advantage, the only thing that you can make big bucks off of is a cure. And that is, cures are way less researched because of that financial incentive that comes from IP.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Which, yeah, we're in alignment there, Scott, in terms of IP. And so Lactoid, you know,
what if we limited the patents, like to us? I know most of the time it's like 5 years or 10 years, like depending on. But like some of these drugs are people that these companies are buying. You know, they're buying shit. You know, Daraprim, for example, the one that got Shkreli, infamous. I mean, that was what, from 1920 or 1930 that was discovered.
So a couple of things.
I mean, that would be a move in the right direction.
Patent stuff. I think it was Lactoid who said earlier, and I think Scott also just touched on this. I know the prevailing theory is, and I'm sure there's some evidence behind it. I'm not an economist. That patent laws, as a form of protecting IP, that does incentivize innovation. But I've also seen evidence to the contrary, right? Like, isn't that part of the issue why we've had so few like innovations with respect to like insulin? Is because the patents that protect insulin have been basically bulletproof. It's actually discouraged new entrants into the market. Like I'm sure I thought there's some evidence.
I can speak to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or I can attempt to with a pretty decent amount of confidence. Where I'm very curious as to what you're reading, Lactoid, when it comes to like innovation and like IP, resulting in innovation. Like you are seeing this play out in the pharmaceutical market now. Like again, go through like the top 10. Most profitable medications. They are typically like biologics. They are protein-based, antibody-based drugs. And I would encourage you specifically to look at Abbott. I think for like the past like 10 years or so, Abbott has been like they've had the number 1 or like number 2 most profitable drug, Humira. And I will look into the type of litigation and like all of the pretty much like hundreds of millions of dollars that they're spending in order to protect their patent. And so what intellectual property does is it allows a pharmaceutical company to pretty much like put a fresh coat of paint on these particular types of drugs, because these are protein based. It's almost impossible. It is impossible to fully patent a protein based drug, and this is why you have a whole aspect of biosimilars. So what this allows what IP allows companies
Poor
to do.
Giga
Like,
Datum.
it allows basically to say, okay, this is Humira.
Giga Datum's like, shut up, nerd. I see it all over. his
I'm
face.
totally a nerd. I will fully bite that bullet.
You're
I'm
a
also
PhD candidate, right? And like,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, yes, no, absolutely.
I just have so
So-
many questions, but I'm like waiting.
so
Nerds are hot.
what companies are allowed to do is they are allowed to put a fresh coat of paint on these types of drugs and be like, oh, okay, you know, it's still whatever a Honda Civic, but instead of a black Honda Civic, it's a green one. It has no therapeutic benefit, or like, you know, if you squint hard enough, there's enough therapeutic benefit that's, oh, this is like brand new, this is miraculous, when it's actually not. And you see that, as alluded to by Ruminate, that plays out with insulin as well.
So here's what I think.
So
Quick response.
respond to that. I do want to hear from Giga and let some other people in.
So, I think a lot of this could be addressed not necessarily by just like removing, again, especially when they got like clinical trials and FDA regulation. If that was gone, maybe I'd have a different opinion. But right now, I think you could address this by maybe reforming the IP system rather than just completely getting rid of it. So one thing you could do is, you know, okay, patent protections only apply to new drugs that you synthesize, and they only last for this number of years. Right, like let's say, you know, 5 or 10 years, or, you know, whatever there's like a strong consensus for. And you know, after that, you know, you can't just put a fresh paint on it, because anybody else can just manufacture the old paint one and put that out as a generic, right? You know, because right now, I mean, you have situations which I think which actually is, I think, counter innovative, which is, again, people buying old drugs and then, you know, buying patents on drugs that have, you know, been around for 100 years. Colchicine is another one. Right. And Corey, I told you, you know, when I had to take that, I looked into it back in 2001, 2002, that drug was like 10 cents a pill. When I bought it, it was not 10 cents a pill. Right. Some company bought it and then jacked up the price. And then I had to pay for it. I mean, they didn't make it. They didn't invent it. And it was a drug that's been around since the 60s. That's a clear example of where IP is ridiculous. But on the other hand, in this case, where you have like this specific article case, when you have a company that put how much fucking money into like researching and developing this and going through the FDA clinical trials and doing all this shit, and like, hey, like I need a few years afterwards to make some money. I don't know. I don't know how unreasonable that is.
They did get many grants from ALS.
We really believe
advocacy
those
groups,
numbers.
But
Well,
the other thing is this: if you look at there was like a
Sorry. I do want to.
nonpartisan-
I said Giga, so I do want to jump to Giga.
Okay, sorry.
You know, if we removed the pharmaceutical aspect from this conversation, I feel like you guys would be arguing the same points. And that's the only thing I keep hearing is you guys aren't arguing about pharmaceuticals in general. Just you want to enable a windfall tax on practically everything when it comes to our economy. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure what you mean exactly.
Do you know what a windfall tax
are you
is?
describing? It's slipping my mind currently.
thought it was like,
Windfall
doesn't
tax
it
is
tax,
basically
like, exorbitant
it caps the profits of a particular company. So I believe there was one in the 1980s that was over the oil industry. I think they wanted to pursue one here in the United States as of late. They did implement one in the UK, and you know, it basically puts it puts a cap on profits. And it sounds like you know, rather than taking pharmaceutical approach, you guys just are against capitalism in general.
I mean, I'm the most capitalist person
lefty.
here.
I made that
I'm
clear.
definitely more capitalist than you, Giga.
Wait, I'm against capitalism? What?
So the problem
the thing is you have to be with the points that you're making.
So
no, I'm literally more capitalist than you. It's
so the
not
lactoids.
I can get my Soviet flag.
Who's the real capitalist? I want to see this play out.
I'm ready to abolish the FDA and let corporations do the job of the FDA and let there be a free market between people being able to choose whatever fucking medication they want. And then instead of having the FDA have a fucking stranglehold on what medication we can and can't take. Like the idea of like we had a baby formula shortage literally caused by the FDA.
He wasn't talking to you. Oh my God, he wasn't talking to you. He said that, right?
So I know, I'm
and-
being
Giga, I appreciate you. I appreciate you
my thing
for
is simply
exposing
this
the
again.
socialist villain that is Lactoid. So go
I
ahead,
don't think
Giga.
the Donbass should not be independent. I think
GB.
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
So Lactoid, I do have a
should be part of Russia.
You know, I just when I hear this argument, it's not about pharmaceuticals. You guys are just arguing against capitalism.
So Lactoid, I do have a question for you about
super new for me,
because you said that comments that you said previously indicated that you think that the reason the cost of this drug is so high is because of R&D and the company needing to make a profit. But I don't want to misrepresent you. Is it your opinion that the $158,000 per year expense associated with this drug is like it's priced at, like, they're not price gouging. It's basically they're trying to make a profit. It's a reasonable profit based on the amount of money they invested into this drug and the R&D. Like, is that your opinion? Because
Can you prove otherwise?
Well, number one, I'd like Lactoid to answer, and then actually, yes, some of the articles do indicate otherwise, and I was going to get into that.
Indicate.
That's not
So-
indication is not fact.
Okay, so
Provide
Giga,
them, sir.
so if Lactoid could answer, because he may not disagree.
So
I'm
you
curious.
guys have this back and forth. Doobie, haven't forgotten you. Okay.
So I don't know, but I'm willing to take your word for it and engage with the question as if they're making a whole fuck ton of money.
So
this is like one of
when
this
I
is one of-
read.
this is
So when
one
I
of the-
researched this drug, was it not like a drug that prolonged life for like a couple months here? So it's just ironic that
Lactoid
they're
speaking.
talking about the span of a year's time when these people aren't going to live that long, right? So
We should
Yeah,
more,
probably
more
just
so
indirectly
more so a joke than
advocate
anything.
for-
But the point
No,
is,
that's
right? This drug is not going to be used, for the vast majority of Americans out there. I mean, how many people are actually going to use this drug? So why is it such a hard concept to understand that? Yes, well, this price, although it might be egregious, it might be extreme. Like, do you actually know how many people are going to be using this drug?
I'm going to get
America has
high.
all these
Lactoid.
drugs to make
Does
sure
that-
that
wait,
people are okay.
the Institute for
Wait,
Clinical
so
and
Giga,
Economic.
does that matter to you though, Giga? Like, so if it were like something like insulin, for example, with like 7
It does
million people
fucking
taking
matter.
insulin.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
let me draw it out for you. Okay, so 7 million people taking insulin every day. If the company that produces insulin decided to bump up the price at $10,000 per dose or whatever the fuck, like, you'd probably say, hey, that's egregious. We can't allow that because these people need insulin to survive, right?
Would you? Would he?
Would I say that?
Yeah, well, I'm asking, or
Well, he
would you
said
say that?
fuck 'em
Hey, well,
earlier, so-
they own the patent. They produce.
I believe
insulin,
there
so
would be
if they wanna- they
competition
wanna
that
charge
would right that
10,000
wrong, not the United States government.
Okay, so
so
Lactoid,
some
I
people
will
suck.
get back to my answer,
the non-profit,
which I was in the middle of.
With the
Oh, you
real
didn't
choice.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Please
Though.
stand
Would
up.
there
Go ahead.
would there not be competitive player that would show their hand
Well,
and
how many
therefore drive
companies
price
talking
down?
about
companies
the-
produce
because
the
because of
policy
IP.
patent law.
What's that?
No, there wouldn't be competition, and that's the problem, right? Like the IP and the FDA are both create monopolies and monopolies in such a way by power of the
insulin?
force of the law.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're telling me
That's the problem.
one company owns the IP
You
for
can-
insulin.
No, I'm not saying one company owns the IP for insulin. There's a specific part of the production. I'd
You
have
asked
to
me a
look up
question regarding
insulin
insulin,
specifically.
of
He
which
sounds
again,
upset.
no.
No,
So
what
you,
I'm-
again,
what
you're
I'm saying is, no. What I'm saying
Okay,
is
so
that
can I-
the instantiation of
Okay.
IP and the
Okay.
FDA makes it to where there isn't a competitive market.
Okay, so we
Did
we,
the
we
United States
so hold
government
on,
just
guys,
not agree not too long ago to buy insulin from Canada?
Everyone
I
pull it
wanna hear
down.
him- I
Everyone
wanna
pull
hear
it
him
down
practice
because we
arguing,
got
Prime.
like 5 people who've been trying to jump in and get their points in. All right, Lactoid. I want you to be able to answer that question. Dude, we're gonna go to Doobie because I
Lactoid
said
suck the most.
Prime's a moderator. He can choose
Okay.
what people's talk at any given time. If you have a problem with that,
Lactoid.
you can sit and call.
Lactoid. Finish up your answer. Then I want to get to Doobie. He's been waiting patiently, and he's probably going to talk to you, Giga, any which way. All right. And then who wants to jump in afterwards? Joe, maybe you haven't got a chance to speak.
I'm good.
Lactoid, go.
My deepest apologies to Ryan Lochte at my over talking. So
I know that
ruminate.
reference.
Good. Ruminate. So I think I remember your question, which
He was
was
laughing at
It was
that joke,
several
weren't you?
years ago. Yeah.
yeah, I think I remember the question, which was do I think that the profit they're making is okay, reasonable profit, covering all of their R&D and everything like that?
Right.
I fully admit that they could be making a whole bunch of profit. Right now, they have large expenses, and if the drug didn't work, they'd be out a fuck ton of money, and they're willing to take that risk. But this is actually one of the reasons why I'm fundamentally opposed to price gouging laws, and why most economists are, because price gouging very consistently leads to reduced supply, because you are less likely to take on risk when the potential reward is capped, when the potential reward is reduced, and when you have a high reward, like in the pharma industry, which can happen, right? If you come out with like a good drug, you can make a fuck ton of money, way more than your expenses, then you can make a whole fuck ton of profit. Well, that's the motivation to take the risk in the first place. And again, that's why in America we have more drugs being made than anywhere else in the world by a significant margin.
57%, by the way.
57% by a massive margin.
The Institute for Clinical and Economic Review. This is in many of the articles pertaining to the topic that Prime linked us to. It's a nonprofit, and they did a review of the drug, and they found that if it was priced annually between 10 and 30,000, so right now it's 158,000, but between 10 and 30,000 per patient, that the company would turn a profit off this drug. And again, this is for a drug that's been accelerated. Like, we don't know what the long-term...
I fucking hate articles like this.
That's such bullshit.
You know why?
It's such bullshit.
It does not take into account all the failed R&D and all the failed clinical trials for other drugs that did not hit the market. And it pisses me off because, once again, you can clearly see the bias in that opinion. Doesn't matter. In terms of profit at this point in time, it's irrelevant because you don't have no idea how much money the company has spent on other drugs. So to make one profitable has to go well beyond just becoming profitable, don't you think? Because it has to elude or it has to make up for all the other products that were not.
Okay,
I don't know if they
hold on.
You don't know? It's fucking logic. What do you don't know?
I'm going. Shut up. You guys will get a chance to talk again. I am positive, okay?
Like, just think about it.
You be waiting. You be, please.
Hi. So back to the insulin thing, right? So there are 3 companies that are the primary producers of all the insulin in the world. They
How is that possible if there's one IP?
Let him talk, bro.
Well, let me answer the question. So if you don't want to use insulin, we can just say imaginary wonder drug that 7 million people in the country need.
I don't want to use imagination. Actually, for the topic of debate, if you can actually think of a particular, I don't want to debate imagination land.
Okay, then we're going to use insulin. Then I use insulin. That's okay.
Okay, which does not have an IP, right?
Which, if these 3 companies, right, which produce 90% of the insulin on the planet, decide tomorrow to increase the price to $10,000 a dose. Right, and at least 7 million people in the United States alone need this every fucking day. This is obviously going to be impossible for most of these people to pay for this. So would you say at that point that, hey, the company, this is your product, you can charge us whatever you want for it. It doesn't matter if 7 million people need this to live. If they die, hey, fuck it, they lost, right? They should have made more money. Like, is that, like, I'm wondering, like, how much you actually love capitalism, quote unquote, because it seems like all you're saying is, hey, well, fuck, you lost, you didn't make enough money to go away, right? Like, I'm just
okay.
Like,
here's my
you just say, hey, they own the product, they can charge whatever they want for it, yada yada, and everybody else, fuck you.
All right, here's a question for you. We're allowed, I believe actually Trump made this possible. We're allowed to buy insulin from other countries, right?
Hail President Trump.
Am I incorrect in saying that? Is that Trump that Trump allowed us to buy insulin from other countries? Is that an incorrect statement?
I think I can go to a country and probably find insulin.
Again, wait, it doesn't matter.
Is that an incorrect statement? That
it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter because they want to charge $10,000 a dose across the entire planet. It doesn't matter. Hold on, it doesn't matter because
I'm answering your question. You didn't even let me get to my point.
Well, shit.
You didn't like.
Well, then you're begging the question. What if?
You did not even let me get to my point.
Charge insulin. Please decide to charge $10,000 a dose across the entire planet, right? Everywhere on the planet you go, it's $10,000 a dose.
But here's the thing:
you can't just go to another country and buy.
In America, capitalism exists, right? So, but if we are able to buy insulin from Canada or from other countries,
don't take our insulin. No.
Here's the thing: if their systems are so much better, then what's the problem?
No, you're not paying attention because that insulin is still produced by these 3 companies that is charging $10,000 a dose.
If, for example, another country can produce it cheaply, and under capitalism we can buy from said
these
country,
3 companies are producing
why is there an issue?
They cannot. These 3 companies are producing it.
Are you telling me that we cannot buy insulin? Do you know with absolute certainty that we cannot currently buy insulin from another country? Do you know that for a fact?
I'm telling you that the insulin in the other country is still going to be produced by one of these 4 companies.
And I'm telling you right now, how much is it charged in those other countries?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter though, because you're arguing something that would never happen because these other countries
Ayn Rand,
do not operate.
Fuck you guys, you're poor. I want to charge $30,000 a dose for insulin across the entire fucking planet. Would you say, oh well, shit, it's capitalism, eat it? Like, is that really your answer?
No, because again, these countries that we would buy from do not live under capitalism.
Okay, so let me explain. Let me explain
true,
some
Kevin?
basic.
Do you understand what I'm trying to
like
say?
Canada.
Like you can't.
Like-
You're trying to argue against capitalism, and then I say, great. Well, then we can
No,
buy
I'm
from
not.
countries or other companies that
I'm
are
telling you,
don't
you're
operate
not-
under capitalism.
You're
And
not
you're like,
But you're not-
supporting
yeah, but that doesn't
capitalism.
matter.
You're not engaging with his hypothetical, though,
So-
right? He's
Yeah,
got like
dude,
a
let me
pretty
actually-
simple.
The hypothetical. No, I don't engage in hypothetical that are not based in somewhat realistic, realistic topics.
I'm
Like,
gonna-
This is
I will
this
engage.
is- this is
topic
a-
didn't exist, Prime. The last topic didn't exist, apparently.
I guess
so-
not.
like
Let me-
this would
let me
just
ex-
never happen. And again, we could
What
argue
about,
that's
okay,
the
Martin
kind of debate you
Shkreli
want to
did this
have.
like fucking 5 years ago.
Wait,
What are you
wait,
talking
Okay, so let me
gotta
prove
study,
to you
by the
why.
way.
Let me prove to you why this is bullshit, right? So let's actually engage in a conversation about capitalism, and let's assume that your version of capitalism is like objectivist, right? So you believe in IP, right? What is price? Price is the reward that an individual, company, corporation, etc., right, gets for proper resource allocation and investment of capital in order to bring something to the market, because we have a universal time preference. We have something that we want now, and we want it more than we want later. So we're not going to invest our own time to build said thing. We're willing to buy it. Okay. And then, of course, you have land and labor that goes into this. Now, let's say, for example, a company out of the 4 companies, let's say all 4 companies get together and form a cartel, right? And that cartel says, we're going to jack the price of insulin up to $30,000 a dose. Well, number one, you have to look at how elastic is the good. Right now, insulin's a pretty elastic good because people need insulin. However, it's only so elastic as the people have the money to actually afford that price. So number one, they would never fucking charge that much because they would lose money by charging that much because it would price almost everybody out of the market except a relatively few people. So that would be giga stupid of them to do that. But let's assume that everybody has the ability to get their fucking GoFundMes and auntie and uncles and everybody together so that they can afford this price so that they can continue living. What you have done is you've created what's known as a market void. Other companies look in this and go, okay, there's different patents on insulin, right? Because there's not like one insulin, right? There's different variations. And if we can create something that can fill in the void, that is a medication or something that can be created. Maybe it's like some type of hybridized pig insulin, or it's some new medication that takes the place. We can make billions because these companies are doing this. And then as those things start to come to market, the cartel will break. One of those companies will realize that they need to lower their price. Cartels break all the time. Even with intellectual property, which makes a pseudo monopoly in this situation, that's not how capitalism works. The fact of the matter is that price gouging is not only not bad, it is good. It is a great thing. Price gouging allows people to properly move resources, goods, and commodities to the places where they are most needed by the people that want them the most, and it is positive. All of you should be happy when people fill a van up with a bunch of water and drive to a disaster relief zone during a hurricane and charge $20 a bottle of water. Because what that does is that moves water from places where people don't need it to places where people desperately need it, and make it easier to give everybody water because some rich people will buy water immediately, and it makes FEMA's job easier. Price gouging good, the way you're describing capitalism, gigatarded.
And
Thank
most economists
You would say
agree
all
too.
word.
What?
I don't know. I'm just fucking around.
You said you
Okay.
used the retarded word.
You are
It's
word.
like gigatarded.
So again,
Hey,
I was
Corey,
trying to
Chris,
refresh
sorry,
my memory, and
keep it up?
it does appear that under the Trump administration,
trying.
we have allowed for the importation of drugs, and which again, one of those things that nobody is ever going to give credit to Trump if you hate Trump. So, the thing is again, we argue against capitalism when there are alternatives. For example, buying from other countries. These countries, if they are so successful and they do have such a good healthcare system, what or why would you be opposed to that?
I don't think it occurs.
Crickets.
Like no, just because
I'm sorry. What was the question?
I'm not an expert on.
If you guys can speak in hypotheticals, why can't I? It's a hypothetical question.
I will try to engage as best I can, since I'm the Canadian here, along with Lactoid. Where it's like as far as I know, okay. I don't think it's super cheap to mail. I don't think you can mail medications from Canada, or at least like the fees would be like so high that it just becomes more expensive and cost prohibitive anyways. That is my limited understanding. Where there's a reason why, yes, on the whole, medications, pharmaceuticals are cheaper in Canada, and yet despite that, there's not like a huge sale, at least as far as I know, like not a massive sale of Canadian drugs to the United States. Like it does happen, but not as far as I know on like a massive scale.
Pharmaceutical companies are heavily against it, which is why so hard.
EpiPens. People buy a lot of EpiPens from Canada. Like that is a form of medical tourism.
Yeah, no, I know what happens.
I buy a lot
but
of
like
poutine from Canada. It's really good.
The real Canada, Quebec poutine's the best poutine.
I mean, like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what you say, Corey, because like you've tweeted out about how you use the private healthcare in Canada because your healthcare sucks.
What are you gonna do about that?
Because you're Joe, shut the fuck up. You're not even in the fucking conversation.
Oh, I know.
Just mean
Cake isn't either, but you know.
No, like
don't know shit about this.
Your own actions have proven that you don't fucking actually believe in the Canadian healthcare system and the socialist model because you're willing to engage and get better healthcare from private health insurance in your personal life.
Okay,
so like, why would you even argue for it?
So I can engage with that, and you are correct. I mean, I tweeted it out for a reason. Where it's like, yes, I totally in Quebec, since for the past couple of decades, Quebec has privatized some medical services, which I am against. And yes, Reese, some in this past year, I did pay for an appointment to see a family doctor because it took too long.
You?
And I'm all for abolishing the private sector because yes, it has resulted in. I fully admit I did not feel good about doing that, and I'm all for abolishing.
It was just better.
And I'm against.
So one other thing I don't believe people have really addressed, or a question
okay?
has not risen, is obviously. So you, for example, so I think we can all assume that you might pay more in taxes, right, Corey, for living in Canada?
On the whole, yes. Me personally, since I'm not super wealthy.
Now,
$2
could you say with absolute certainty that over the lifespan of your entire life, because you have free healthcare, that you, even though I might have to inevitably one day pay for an expensive drug, my taxes theoretically are smaller than yours? Could you say with absolute certainty, discrepancy between the two, that I would in the end pay more?
I'm not sure I 100% understand your question. I'm not sure what your argument you're trying to make.
Your taxes, one of the reasons why your taxes are so high in Canada is because of your healthcare system, correct?
Yeah, that is definitely one of the main reasons. Yeah,
one of the main reasons why. Okay, exactly. So, for example, you have free healthcare, but you pay. So, obviously, we can argue the semantics of or just how much, and obviously none of us are going to know. But my argument is simply this. Although our drugs might be more expensive here in the United States, can you say with absolute certainty that over the course of one's lifespan that we would actually pay more in the end, the average citizen, for our healthcare, for these expensive drugs, than someone who has to pay every single day of their life through taxes?
On principle, no, I can never say anything with absolute certainty, so I will not bite that bullet.
Have you seen any studies that indicate otherwise? Or that indicate one way or the other?
No.
Wait, but that's kind of...
So I think it's funny that you guys argue and you bitch about the price of these drugs, and yet you don't actually know over the course of one's lifespan, if under the American healthcare system, even if you are paying more for drugs, you don't know, and neither of you know, if you would actually pay more in the end. So I think that's kind of funny, don't you think?
Wait, but okay, but in Canada, everybody has access to healthcare. So like that. So yeah, they probably.
We're not arguing about the access.
Why do you like
everyone in America?
Probably that they pay more. That they pay more long term and throughout their entire life. But the trade off is more. Their entire nation has healthcare.
Yeah,
right?
So does America.
And everyone in America has access to health.
No, we don't.
And we have data, generally speaking, of like per capita spending on healthcare expenditure, and the U.S. Like pretty much doesn't get a lot of bang for their buck, as in comparison to Canada when it comes to per capita spending.
No, it's those studies are bullshit. So what you're referencing is about 7,000 versus 14,000, right? So the idea is that America pays about twice as much per capita on those expenses. The problem with that is that those studies often leave out really important variables. Number one, it is good that some people intentionally pay more. When everyone has the same access to healthcare, that means that nobody is paying a premium for premium care. So in America, when I had the birth of my first son, what we did is we shopped around for the hospital that we wanted to go to. And we intentionally paid more money to go to a hospital that was better, that had a better NICU, that had a better environment, that had better hospital beds, that allowed more people to come into the room so that like my grandparents and myself could be there. And also, let's be honest, so that I could sleep on the little fucking sideway couch so that it wasn't uncomfortable for me to be in the room. We paid a premium. We intentionally paid more money for a better service. Number one. Number two, they look at the black book. They look at what the stated price is. The problem is that insurance companies negotiate those prices way down, as do individuals. It's very easy for me to call up the hospital and be like, hey, this surgery that was 10 grand, I can't afford that, but can I do a payment plan for 4 grand? They do that shit all the time, and that's not calculated. Number three, they don't look at bankruptcy. Even though people don't like the idea of medical bankruptcy is a subsidy that is paid towards poor people, that those costs then get absorbed by people that pay health insurance and pay out of pocket. Because if somebody's getting it for quote unquote free, somebody else is paying for it, just like with taxes. Okay, there are a ton of reasons why that data is fucking bullshit. And you need only look at first principles to know that a competitive market is going to produce cheaper and better outcomes than one that is centrally planned. And if you don't believe me, read Road to Serfdom and go back to your fucking Hayek, because you can't solve the economic calculation problem.
Okay, so I can engage with that point, and I will fully concede that we do not have perfect data about, you know, actual like the full breakdown of per capita spending on healthcare expenditures. Even if I gladly concede that whatever it's equal, where if you factor in all the things you factor in, it's the same. But still, on the whole, even though I think I understand the pushback that you will bring, but when it comes to outcomes, like we still get overall better outcomes. But I understand. You know,
not if you
yes,
not if you
if you look
account
at certain demographics. Yes, I know.
Right. Also, I do want to point out, to be fair to Corey, like they do get free euthanasia in Canada. So
we do, yes, medical assistance in dying, absolutely.
Only 3.3% of people that die every year.
And also free gender transition surgery, right?
Free dick pills.
I don't know.
I think so. I was talking to a Canadian who told me that she was going to go get it done because it was free in Canada.
Do you talk to Canadians, Corey?
I talk to fellow Quebecers, absolutely. And yes,
but only in English, you bitch. You don't speak Quebecois.
Yeah, I will fully admit I'm a bad Quebecer.
I want to hear from
colonizer Corey.
Yeah, I'm totally sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Doobie.
No, I thought you had something to say in a response to maybe Giga. I don't know.
No, I didn't.
You didn't have anything. Okay, great. So overall, having the problem that we are trying. Oh yeah, this is what I would say before. Is it Scott, right? Like hanging his hat on like the word access, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess we all have access. Meaning you can go to the emergency room and then you can go bankrupt if you have a large enough issue. Like yeah, sure. So we all have access. Why you don't hang your hat on access? People who like do like healthcare, healthcare policy. I don't talk about simply access. It's the buzzword that politicians try to use to say, well, I mean, we've already done it. No, like it has to be affordable. It has to be care that a person would use without like losing their life savings. That's what we're actually discussing. And if we and it's like, what do we want in society? Do we want a society in which everyone is able to go to the doctor and use those services that are like preventative care or diagnostic testing to keep themselves healthier? Or do we want one in which someone gets to make a profit somewhere down the road?
Yeah,
like that's,
I'll respond.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I would say is that individual rights come with individual responsibilities. And what I instead see is a lot of left-wingers want to use the state apparatus as a means of providing healthcare when this is less efficacious, more expensive, and ultimately more harmful to poor people than actually giving us the individual rights and then getting off of your fucking ass and creating those co-ops, creating just like the Christians are doing already, where they create mutualist insurance companies where they pay progressive rates for their insurance costs. And then they engage in, like, when really expensive things come up, they use donation models and charity and grace as a means of making sure that those people have access to that healthcare. And so, completely devoid of the government providing free healthcare, people have come together based off of their religious beliefs and created more efficient and better healthcare with better access to healthcare than the government ever could create. And so what I would say is, when you ask what kind of world do I want to live in, I want to live in a world where instead of being enslaved by the socialists, I'm free to engage in the choices that I want. And that comes with the consequences that you're responsible for yourself and your community and whatever it is that you value, as opposed to just letting the government do these things and saying that it'll fix it when the data shows that it doesn't fix it. Central planning doesn't work.
I think something that someone like myself and a lot of people echo the same mentality is, I don't want to pay for someone like Doobie, right? If Doobie's going to go to the hospital, I don't want to fucking pay for him. I maintain my health, obviously, you know, pretty good, pretty well fit guy, and obviously you can never account for everything.
Fucking you even lift, bro? Coming into the argument, it's undefeated. It's undefeated.
I know. Law of averages, I should inevitably, or theoretically, pay less for how my health problems that I might have for someone like, for example, who is obese. And I think, to me, that is a huge thing. I don't want to pay for someone else. I think a lot of Americans have that same mentality, and that is a concept of which, again, you guys fail to address. Is you want people to spend and work hard and pay for others, and a lot do not simply want to do that.
Cool.
And it does not make them, and your mentality is simply, well, all right, well, that sucks. They should have to pay for me.
I also want to point out that 50%. 50%
that's not America.
50% of healthcare costs are incurred by like 5% of the U.S. population, by the way. So
what's that?
When you're paying for other people, really, like, we're all paying for a very small subset.
That's right. We should have death panels. I agree. Go ahead, Doobie.
Or euthanasia, like in Canada.
Yeah, there we go.
What's wrong with euthanasia?
You got who needs expensive ALS medication? You're gonna die in a couple months anyway. Just go ahead and fucking kill yourself.
It's simple. So the matter is, I don't want to pay for anybody else. I don't care.
Doobie. You were trying to say something.
Yeah, I think then maybe you should go live on an island somewhere, because if you're living in a country,
actually, I'll continue to live in the United States of America because that's the system we have.
Let Doobie go to the island.
Oh my God, people that you dislike.
I'm already living in that land.
Hey, Giga, then you're going to continue paying for people you dislike, and if you don't, we're going to put you in a cage and we're going to fuck you up for the rest of your life. Okay, that's what happens.
No, the system that I am in is the one that I want. You're the one that wants to live on the island.
That's not true. You already pay for poor people. You already pay for overweight people. You already pay for smokers and people who drink alcohol and drug addicts. You already fucking do this. You already pay for homeless people that are scratching their ass on the street. So if you don't like that, then go somewhere else, because that's what we do in the United States of America. We understand that
so
if
you're saying that there is no problem in the nation, so what are we arguing?
You have some responsibility for the people around you, for your community, and the way that we deal with that in the United States is we pay taxes, and those taxes go to programs that help these people, help our neighbor. So when we walk outside, there's no dead people all over the fucking floor of fucking cancer and AIDS and fucking overdoses. Right?
If we already do all these things, then what is the issue?
If you don't give a fuck about other Americans, then go to Giga Island and sit there.
Wait, Doobie, I want to ask you a question, because
Wait.
This is the Doobie. This is the question, and again, this is going to be Giga's point, but not crazy.
I don't know if you can do that.
So here you have an example of somebody, I'm assuming, who works out. Okay, but let's say you have somebody who works out, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, has a lot of self-discipline. Is a very good, like very health conscious person, and makes those decisions. And then you have somebody
with ALS.
Sure. Well, the ALS is interesting, right? Because it's not necessarily, to my knowledge, it's not necessarily affected by lifestyle. Maybe it is. But like, let's assume that instead of that, let's say you have somebody who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes per day, actively decides to do that, eats like shit, doesn't work out at all, and just like lives off the system. Like that's their existence. Okay, Doobie? And this person, like at age like 70, gets like horrible lung cancer from their 3-pack a day cigarette smoking. Why do you think it's really fair that like a Chad like Giga here has to pay for this other person who made all these bad decisions in their life?
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
lives in America. That's
because that person killing themselves with cigarettes and Big Macs and all this shit, they're also paying for the roads that he's driving on to get to his gym. right? They're also paying for the roads that he's driving on to wax his ass.
They're paying a lot
Right,
less,
so,
though.
you know, hold on, but they're also paying taxes
Oh.
for services that he's benefiting from. So we got to understand, yeah, there are going to be some cases where people are pulling more than they should.
There's a
from
massive
some.
disparity.
Paying more than they should, taking more than they should from the community box. Okay, absolutely, and we can find ways to incentivize people not doing that. Right, we can penalize people if they're overweight or if they're smoking. Actually, we already do this. We have like super high taxes on cigarettes and alcohol and whatnot. Right? And I think that's fine. I think, hey, because we understand that when they smoke, when they drink a lot of alcohol, when they do these unhealthy things, they're actually hurting the rest of the community in some way. So they should pay for that. And I think
would you force people? Would you force people to work out?
Yeah,
not for,
I'd have like a.
Otherwise,
have like
I'm
a fat
paying
tax.
for it.
Wait, I'd have a fat tax. Yeah, and I'd actually be in favor of
Fat
taking
tax?
children away from parents. If the parents are having like obese children, I'd absolutely have the children taken away.
Yeah, so
okay.
I lived.
So,
I lived.
I want to
actually
include
lived in a different
Lactoid's
country
point.
for
Oh,
fucking
okay,
3 years or 4
Maybe
4
you
years,
should
sorry.
go back.
Okay, Andrew Tate.
And
Anything else you want to share with the class?
no, my point is so I lived in Japan for 4 years, and they actually
fancy.
charged. They actually charged
Japan.
families. For fuck's sake, they actually charged families, additional money if their children were over a certain weight. Would you be opposed to that?
Did that affect
I
you,
just said I'd be okay with that actually.
Yeah,
but
a fat
it's
tax.
interesting to me that you use Japan.
Now, well, it's
which
just
is
funny
a far
because
more
what
collective
sort
culture
of
than the United
mental,
States.
But you
Like, what the fuck are you
you
talking about?
immediately say yes to that. However, you don't even think it's going to have some sort of detrimental effect to one's mentality, to the child's well-being. If they actually
hold on.
sit on the scale, be like, "Oh no,
Now
you need to
he
lose
thinks
weight."
about
because
it.
you're too fucking fat."
I think whatever short term.
No. Because now you didn't even think this through.
Calm
Because
down. Yes, I
in
did.
the last
Absolutely, I did.
panel,
I don't just say
you would
things
have said
without thinking about
otherwise.
them.
This is funny as fuck.
That's not
In the
true.
last panel, you
Okay,
would have said otherwise.
I think whatever
Because the
short
first and
term
foremost thing was the
negative
kid's
impact.
well-being.
Oh God. No, that's not true. I think whatever short-term negative impact, right, that occurs to this child because they found that they're too fat, right? Is I think that's dealing with that, right, is worth saving them from a lifetime of fucking health issues and pain in their backs and the knees.
So you're
and-
against
and
body
fucking
positivity?
heart attacks. Yeah, of course I am. What the fuck are you talking about? Who? Okay, you don't know. You don't know.
It's just
me,
very
okay? So,
uncommon for a
but-
liberal.
But I'm not. I'm not a liberal.
Do be
I'm not a
liberal.
Right, so, yeah, I'm just not stupid. That's the issue, right? So I understand that if you live in a country, you're gonna need to pay for some things that you're not.
I
gonna
just
do.
think it's
I
funny
pay
that you're
tax-
willing
I
to
pay
put
lots of taxes
you're willing to put a
for shit
child
that I
on a
don't want.
scale
Liberal.
whether
And if I'd like to
and
change that,
decide
I
whether or
can
not
vote,
they need to lose
I
weight or
can
pay
vote,
more
and
money.
I can change that. And I'd actually and go further. I'd actually like
that's
to
not going to
remove
have
the ability to
detrimental
vote
effect
for most of the fucking country, including people like you. I'd like a fucking IQ requirement for people having voting rights, right? So like, you're arguing with
wouldn't be
somebody that
opposed.
isn't here.
Well, you wouldn't
Okay.
vote then.
Corey.
Yeah.
Me just
So-
said you stupid.
So Lactoid, I want to engage with the point that you were trying to make earlier, where it's like, let's say this person exists that takes care of themselves, they work out, they're
Like
disciplined.
you, Corey. Yeah.
But I would add in they're also like emotionally regulated as well, maybe a little bit less impulsive. And let's say there's this other person that you highlighted, where it's like, they're just like largely leading an unhealthy lifestyle. I'd be more than happy to pay for whatever medical treatment that they require. I'm more than happy to do that through my taxes. And what I would also add is like I would reframe it of like I would not necessarily like force people to work out, but I would absolutely have public gyms or more freely accessible gyms and incentivize people working out. I'd also like incentivize healthier consumption of food and subsidize the appropriate foods. And I would also add in that instead of like treating someone who's after like 70 years they may have like lung cancer after the 3-pack a day consumption, I would also like invest in hopefully preventing or like having access to treatment so that they can actually address their addiction to smoking or whatever it is that their habit that they want to break.
So
more focused on prevention.
Here's the problem, and this is, I think, the underlying problem when it comes to universal healthcare, right? I think it opens the door to tyranny like nothing else. Because if you have universal healthcare, and I mean this, like, I will turn into Stalin. Like, you are not leaving your house except, I have to, because otherwise I'm paying your medical bill. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ban cigarettes, I'm going to ban alcohol, I'm going to ban fast food, I'm banning anything that might kill you, I'm banning all guns, I'm going to make you stay inside your house for 3 hours a day. That 1 hour is for like, no, 5 hours for mandated exercise, and
Which
the rest
is
19 hours.
exactly why you're not getting elected president.
A regimented sleep schedule.
Also, you're not getting elected president because your feelings about the dead and what we should do to them. Okay, all right. So like, it's not
I'm not bringing that
issue.
up in the campaign trail.
Okay, we're gonna go Cake, and then we're gonna go Scott. Okay.
Okay.
So I just wanted to go back to, so Giga expressed his position as the second most fit guy on the panel in his thoughts about how he wouldn't want to pay for other people's healthcare. I just wanted to express as the most physically capable man on the panel that I would actually be completely fine with paying for the healthcare of anybody who was obese, overweight, or unwell in any way.
Are you also willing to pay for a housing for the homeless?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
What about my
Okay,
Xbox?
I want.
What about-
I want to.
If you show me that study Lactoid with the mental health benefits of Xbox,
I want to see
Xbox for everybody.
I want to see Doobie, Giga, and Cake do a triathlon. See who wins there. I'm actually quite curious.
Yes.
Hey, we could
And Giga's
do an
fighting for
MMA
white people.
fight streamed
So,
on PrimeCayes channel.
That'd even be better. That's Scott.
So let me just address a couple of problems here. Number one, Doobie and a lot of the lefties here have snuck in a proposition. And the proposition that they've snuck in is that we assume that a high time preference society that gives all of their money for healthcare towards the government will actually lead to better outcome. They've done the consequential analysis, and they say that it will be better than insurance companies and a private system where people are charged more based off of their health and their decisions, and that mutual aid from voluntary associations would somehow be less, despite being more low time preference and despite the market not having to contend with the economic calculation problem. I think that this is absurd, at least stupid economic theory. Second, Gigadatum, the problem that you're having understanding Doobie is that he's a crypto fascist. So he has the same economic policies and government control as would a lefty would. He just has different preferences. His preferences are more conservative, right? So that's why they look different. Number three, when you argue that the state that created that beautiful food pyramid where people got to eat tons of potatoes and bread to be healthy, should be in charge of healthcare. And that we should no longer have private insurance and getting rid of that private insurance. The problem with that is that you're arguing that the authority of the state be absolute here in terms of determining medication. Lactoid touched upon this with things like, I'm going to make it illegal for you to smoke. I'm going to make it illegal to do human preferences. But I want to push further. I want to ask the lefties that want the state to have all of this power a simple question. When you get rid of private insurance and the government is controlling all of the medical needs of the people, what happens when a red wave occurs in the country and Republicans en masse get elected? And these are America first, kind of like, hardcore trad cons, right? A lot of religious conservatives take over. And instead of bringing it back to the free market, they determine, well, this system's in place and we're going to use it as we see fit to put our ideals and the mandate that we were given when we were elected by the people to ensure that all trans healthcare in the United States of America is abolished. We will not pay for any of it, and it's actually illegal for you to go get private insurance to allow people to take hormone replacement therapy, gender affirming surgeries, or any of those things. My question to you is, if you support the government having all of that power, why are you in favor of a trans genocide?
Yeah, so like
Well,
I love how
I think
Scott
at some
said,
level.
Go ahead, you do it first, Stevie.
Well, Doobie's
I
answer.
was just gonna say that at some level, maybe I just have more faith in the intellectual capability of the average American. I don't think that we're gonna get to a place where, especially based on current trends, current polling, I don't think we're gonna get to a place where we're having like this Trump 2024 wave of like QAnon Republicans in office that are just voting to just ban trans healthcare. Right now, I understand there's a slight possibility. Some
metaphors for thee, but not for me.
However, I get the metaphor, right? So hold on, to be clear, I get the metaphor. There is a chance this could happen in the future, right? Absolutely. There could be a chance that, hey, we get fucking non-binary demon in office, right? And they want to make all the kids trans, right? And they just want to abolish gender entirely across the country. Sure, okay,
it's coming.
I think that's a thing that I'm willing to risk. Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I kind of
hold on.
reject the
To be fair, Doobie's lying. Doobie doesn't have that faith in American IQ. He wants to ban everyone from voting. He said that already, like moments ago. So
Based on current trends.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess we gotta hope.
Well, you do like a
that all
test
those-
first.
And what I want, and now look, I'll say this. Scott is looking at this as a fucking gotcha. This is not a fucking gotcha, right? Like not like we haven't wrestled with this before. Specifically,
How come?
I believe it was well, one, because of what's happening in the UK. But specifically, I believe if I'm remembering this correctly, that Bernie Sanders' plan accounts for this and saying that, look, if there's anything that the government doesn't cover, if there's anything a gap of coverage, then private insurance market can actually still exist and take care of that. So if it's cosmetic, right? You want cosmetic insurance, then yes, you can get that. If it was trans, and trans actually might fall under that, depending on which administration you're talking about, then yes, that would be covered. So yeah,
That's an adorable.
Yeah,
That's an adorable.
I don't see it as
non-answer.
I don't see it as a gotcha just because
I didn't bring
there's
up. I didn't bring up Bernie Sanders number one. Or
I
his
didn't say
plan
you
number
did.
two.
I did.
And
Brought trans people there.
right. No, I brought up Corey Campbell saying abolishing private insurance, number one, which is a position that was made on this panel. Number one. Number two, I do love your adorable faith in the government capturing power and then being like, but the Bernie Sanders bill wouldn't. I just think that's cute.
Well, that's why I don't
Look,
see it
we'll
as a
see-
gotcha,
we'll see
because
if
it's
those-
entirely possible that
Okay.
you get bad faith actors who use the lever of power to bring about bad
Yeah.
outcomes. That's the case in any
Listen.
government, no matter how
Right, where you
small or
give them that
large.
power.
That's the
Yeah.
case in our current government, like
Yeah,
Sure.
in our
this is
current
why-
healthcare system.
Precisely.
Which is why you shouldn't give them that
Couldn't you
fucking
argue-
power.
But in that
Here's
current
what- here's
healthcare
what-
system
here's
is full of bad actors. Like
You
this
shouldn't use
is
an argument
this
that
is
choice
the
is
evil. This is the evil outcome, right? This is the bad timeline that we're living in right now. Like talking about, hey, in this other timeline where people regularly get can afford healthcare because it's zero or almost zero, right? Where most of the people's healthcare needs are taken care of. There might be, maybe, sometime in the future where a bad actor
Right.
takes hold, and then bad things happen, and
There
someone
should be
gets
no
left out.
laws
Yeah,
because
that's
a bad
fucking-
government could pass tyrannical laws.
someone
Yeah.
might be in charge, and then they might do a bad thing. And guess what? Then we have to respond politically, because that's what politics is in general. There is a contention between good actors like myself and terrible actors like you and Giga, right? But then you have to. It's a constant battle between the two. So yes, I expect that at some point Republicans will get in office and fuck everything up like they always do. Absolutely, positively. But I'm not afraid of that, right? I'm going to have that fight when that fight
not
occurs.
afraid. It's like this, like
Yeah,
the Eminem
real quick.
song, right?
Real quick, I won't have a dragged out thing, right? I know you're passionate about this. What you described is a conflict for the reins of power and why that is the bad place that we live. And I agree. What I want to do is I want to get rid of the inherent conflict of state control, where one side is trying to gain the reins of power to tell other people how to live their fucking life, and instead create a free and voluntary society where we don't have to deal with the bad actors from the left or the bad actors from the right.
Well, it seems like your ideology wants to change the way that people live their lives. So I mean, like, at least you're honest about that.
No, I believe
No,
he's
no,
actually
no, no,
more
it's-
synonymous with the
it-
society that we have today, and you're the ones that want to change it.
Right, because like think about it, like hold on, like for example, like New
No, that's
Zealand.
literally what you guys are arguing. You want to change
This
everything, whereas
is
fucking someone like Scott is simply like, "Hey, it's fine."
So
I
like
can yell
so
to
New
So how
y'all.
can you literally argue that?
New Zealand, for example, just banned cigarettes. Like for
Cool.
like they're so you're saying cool. You don't think
Don't
that as
care.
you don't think if I'm an adult.
Ratio.
What about
Don't
in
smoke.
California? Flavored what was it? Flavored
Yeah, I think that's great.
Here, what about
Okay,
weed?
stop
What about
it.
weed?
Plus you
What about
want-
No,
Should
should
that's
we ban
a
weed?
bit far.
Yes.
Calm down. No.
Well, okay, I know, Doobie. I know you're like no drugs at all, but I'm asking Joe: should weed be banned because of its negative health effects?
Man, I don't give a fuck about weed. I don't smoke. Do whatever you guys want to do with it.
Well, I can't do. Hold on, I can't do what I want to do with cigarettes though. Like in New
Okay,
Zealand,
Ed,
at least.
you got a problem with that? I don't know
Also-
what to say.
I do have a problem. I do have a problem with that actually.
So sad. You
He
smoke
also-
all
I have
the
a,
Joe
I have
while
a
you're
problem.
lactoid?
I have a
While
problem
you're
with
lactoid
people.
smoking up while
I
he's
think
reading
he's
arguments?
totally
So-
lactoid. I don't think.
Yeah, well, I know, but ultimately, the point is still there, which is like,
Yeah, keep
does
the
bodily
bit. Good,
autonomy
good. It's
for
working.
the people who claim to care about bodily autonomy, like why don't you care about it here? Can I not? Do I not get the choice to put what I want in my own body? Why are you banning that?
No, we already decided
under the guise of universal
freedom. Under the guise of fucking freedom.
Yeah,
that's tyranny, right? Like I literally said, like it opens the door to tyranny. Here's an example: New Zealand banning cigarettes, tyranny, right there.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're not American. They should have a constitution.
Singapore banned chewing gum a long time ago.
Yeah, that's tyranny.
But you could do that.
Don't you agree with that, Corey?
Don't you agree, Corey?
Isn't it fucking ridiculous that Singapore banned chewing gum? And by the way, they did it. They did it for like bigoted. They did it like for bigoted reasons, by the way, because they associated chewing gum with like hookers. It's stupid.
I don't know about that.
That's what I read.
Lactoid.
Regardless of why they did it, it's tyrannical, right?
Then it must be true.
Here's where I'm confused.
I read it in a lefty paper. So
Lactoid. Here's where I'm confused.
Oh, there you go. He's convinced me. Ruminate.
Lactoid, are you saying that just because some governments in some places, implement policies that we would probably all agree are draconian, that somehow that we're obligated to oppose state intervention or state control of certain industries because you could take it to ridiculous extremes like Singapore or other places? I don't think that follows.
I think there is like a very clear, intuitive link between putting the financial interest in one party's hand, and then letting that party dictate what behaviors the other party can engage in. Right? If I have to, like I said before, if I have to foot the bill for somebody else's bad health decisions, I'm all of a sudden very reasonably a lot more in favor of restricting their bad health decisions, which is what we saw in New Zealand, which is what we saw. Like the arguments are always like public health expenses, right? This is why we gotta like prevent people from doing what they want or put whatever they want into their own body. This was literally New Zealand's logic, right? I can't choose to put tobacco in the form of cigarettes in my own body anymore because, well, the government is upset, like the people, the democratically, the people there don't want to pay for it, which is shitty that I can't do what I want with my body anymore.
Well,
there's a much easier way to,
right?
There's an easier way to answer.
It's a flawed democracy.
So ruminate. The reason people are using these examples is they're attempting to speak to consequentialists like yourself, right? That is, attempting to determine the morality of things based off the consequences, the outcome, the utility, or the happiness of people involved, right? And so the problem is morals, right? In order for a moral to be true, they must be universalizable, right? So you can't have a situation where a moral where something is morally good in one instance, but it's not morally good in another instance without adding modifiers that change it. And
That's
so
incorrect.
so you think that morals don't have to be universalizable?
That's just the
You
categorical
don't believe in
narrative.
logic?
No. You step foot in another country, those morals are going to change real quick.
One
That's
last
not
thing.
what that means.
That's not what Scott's referring
not what
to.
that means.
That's
What I'm referring to
Then
is
you need to
whether or not
clarify, because that's pretty much what you said.
No, it's not.
Debate. He's running on fumes.
Well, Scott, I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
that I don't think state control is inherently moral. I think that state control can lead to bad outcomes and be bad. Like it's like a tool. A hammer is good if it's used to hit a nail. It's not so good if it's used to crack a baby's skull.
look
So
at the
you don't
incentive
believe that
structure,
morals
though.
are universalizable. You
I'm
deny
sorry?
logic. You
So-
deny that morals need to be universalizable.
This is like a
Morals are
deeply
not
If you say no, listen. If you say that morals don't need to be universalizable, then I know that every statement you make cannot be compared to whether or not it's valid or true. It is simply nonsense.
I
so you
didn't
might
say,
as well be saying blah 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 blah.
I didn't say anything to that
when you go
effect.
from
I
one
just
state
said
to the
that
other, are you going to argue that people in Arkansas, for example, have different morality than someone in California?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is if you say
No,
that
that's what you're
something is
saying.
I am saying people can have different opinions about whether or not something is moral or immoral. What I'm saying is in order to make this statement, a propositional statement, for it to be valid, to say this is right or good or one ought to do this, then it must be universalizable. It cannot be.
That is not what
untrue
morality
in
is. Morality is just a collective wisdom in the community in which you are in. It changes depending on what community you are in. It is not innate. And people argue otherwise. It is not innate, which is again why you can step in different states and go from a different country and have a completely different moral dilemma of what the rules of the land are.
Can a different culture determine that it is righteous to murder people for no reason?
Yes.
Can any culture determine that?
Yes.
And you would say, so now you can no longer say that murder is wrong. You can only say that murder is the opinion
I can say that
of the people around you.
Morally, for us, murder is wrong. But if another country, for example,
Mhm.
allowed murder, who are we to say otherwise? Good and evil is simply, once again, just a moral construct of our environment. Again, you laugh at this.
Constructs.
You laugh
All
at
right,
this, but
so-
then, but simply put, you can look at history. Like, for example, an extreme example. Why all the Nazis that followed Hitler?
Oh, here we go. Getting gay
Okay,
territory.
do you think they were just evil people, or could they be, for example, just a product of their environment?
I was going to give you that as the bullet to bite, and you brought it up.
I'm serious though.
Right?
I'm serious though.
Shot
That's serious. Do
himself.
you think every single Nazi was
you're-
just
This is
for
two separate
evil?
questions.
There are a lot
one
of
is-
things
It
I
has
love.
nothing to do.
Nazis are
It has
evil.
nothing to do with their
These are
environment.
two.
Nazis
These are two
evil.
separate. These are two
Somebody's
separate
been
questions.
listening to too
These-
much Kanye.
I was going to say, this is a
This is
Kanye
gay
take.
West.
This
No.
is-
You guys
this
are under
is-
the illusion
listen-
that human beings have an innate morality. And at the end of the day, we do
Release
not.
down to
It is
three.
simply
Release
That's
a
down to
not-
three.
construct.
no.
There's actually
You're wrong.
evolutionary proof in
you're-
biology that there
you're-
is
You're
there is
wrong.
empathy
You're wrong.
intrinsic to
You're-
humanity.
okay.
So you're wrong.
You're-
Empathy is different.
Okay.
Empathy is
Ratio.
different.
You're wrong.
Let Scott respond.
You're wrong for a couple reasons. Number one, you're comparing whether or not the valid propositional statement of an act is wrong, and then you're saying, are the people evil? That is a different question about what makes a person evil or what makes a person a good person. And like we could have that conversation another day, like from a virtue ethicist position.
You can't
or
argue
like from a bunch of
morality
other things,
without
right?
arguing good and bad.
Okay, but again, the problem is you're saying whether or not someone is evil, an evil person, right? I'm going to set that aside because that is, as you stated earlier, a non sequitur. It does not follow, right? These are different things. Now, the other problem is that you're saying that there is an innate morality to the person, right? And that is not the same thing as a statement about whether or not a specific action is immoral, right? So
Correct.
going back to the idea of, is murder wrong? Okay.
Healthcare.
It is, I think most people, right, would state that murder is wrong.
Yes.
And it has to be universalizable. It can't be, well, it's only wrong in my country, in my culture, but I can't say whether or not murder is wrong in Nazi Germany.
It's because it's illegal, Scott.
I mean,
That's what makes it wrong.
Because then you, because
that's the
like, by
thing.
your
It's-
argument,
It's different culture.
Hitler did nothing wrong.
It's we can go back to the
It was
first topic.
morally acceptable and
arguing
justifiable
against religion,
to-
right? Why, for example,
Holocaust.
no, again, but
He's
you're
out of
arguing.
gas.
You can
Why are we
simply
doing
go
this?
back to the first topic.
Joe,
Right,
you
religion.
haven't said
Religion.
anything
Why
valued
is it, for
like this
example, why are
topic.
most religions
Stop.
Yeah,
against
because
the
we can practice
LGBTQ
talking and I
community?
want to engage. It's cool, Fabian. You guys want to. I'm just saying, like,
Are you saying that morality has
weird.
nothing to do with, for example, Muslims being against the LGBT community or
you
even
don't,
Christians?
You don't murder and rape because you're afraid of going to hell. I don't murder and rape because I intrinsically know it's a fucked up thing to do.
Giga Chad. I don't fucking
Okay,
know. This
murder-
Okay, I'm just gonna mute. I'm gonna mute.
Murder-
I'm gonna mute Joe. All right.
Murder
I'm
for the
just
vast
muting Joe
majority of
just
people,
'cause he's
yes,
not
Okay,
it
participating.
good.
is.
Bye.
It's not because I'm
But
afraid of his
when
argument.
when you get onto a topic,
Yes,
when you get
run,
on a topic that
coward,
isn't
run,
exactly, once again, innate to every human, for example, like people who are against the LGBTQ community, can you absolutely say that they are evil or they are bad or they are morally ambiguous because they disagree with you?
Before you
Okay,
answer that, we're moving into bonus time. We're like past 11:30.
It's
So
11:30,
I want
I
to
gotta go
continue
now.
on with this. If you guys
Yeah,
want
I'll
to.
be super quick.
But like if someone needs to drop out, just it's fine. Go ahead.
So now we're getting into what I would say, right? And this is a much longer conversation for a different time, is that the only objective morality that I can perceive, as far as I'm concerned, is derived from argumentation ethics, and that aggression is non-justifiable, and that one gets into a logical contradiction when they attempt to argue that it is justified to commit acts of aggression because they are already instantiating the moral norm, and that is universalizable. That aggression, that I am a self-owner and that I am an individual, that when engaged in argumentation for a search for truth, that I own myself and that I have control over myself and by extension, private property. That the rest of those things I don't actually know the answer to. They just fall in the domain of things I haven't proven to be morally unjustifiable, and I have opinions on those.
The problem
usually
with your
derived from
argument right
virtue
here
ethics.
is you keep referring to yourself. And that is my point. It is your.
No,
it
it's
is
you too.
your-
You can't
it is your
logically
moral.
argue aggression.
It is
It's
your
not
moral.
possible.
It is
No,
your
it's-
moral.
You literally can't.
That's
you
why you
can't
kept
argue
using
for aggression.
I. You can't
No,
speak
no,
on behalf of
literally-
everybody.
No, literally, you cannot maintain logical consistency and argue for aggression. It's not possible.
Giga, would you invade Nazi Germany to stop them?
Of course.
Well, why?
Why?
Well,
Why?
they didn't do anything wrong. This
Wait, wait,
culture,
wait,
bro.
If
The
they had
answer.
not
This is
exhibited
like the most
aggression,
basic argument.
if they had not exhibited aggression towards anybody else, that was not an ally of mine. It's very simple.
Well, hold on.
If they,
wait,
if
wait,
they
wait, wait.
themselves, if they themselves, for example, never left their own country.
Okay, but they did the Holocaust though. But they did the Holocaust, but they never left their own country. Do you stop them?
If that's a tough question.
It
That is-
shouldn't be.
It's really a tough question.
Okay.
No. You think it's fucking easy. For example, what about all the atrocities that happen everywhere else? Are we about to invade every other country? Don't laugh at me like an idiot. Because
Yeah,
you're not,
no,
you're
okay,
not
it's really
willing.
stupid.
All right,
Yes,
then
I
you
am.
go sign up. You go sign up for the military, and why don't you go march on
No.
all the other countries that are
I'll pay
committing
someone else to do it.
travesties across
Did you
humanity?
serve?
It's
So
not
the
that fucking
infantry get
simple.
to decide
At the end
well,
of the
not that
day,
simple.
you're not
Simple.
willing to fucking get your boots on the ground into another country simply because they break the laws of which you stand on in the United
Are
States of
you
America.
To stop
Do
a
not be
genocide-
that naive.
Wait, to
I'm
stop
curious,
a
I'm
genocide
curious,
of
I'm curious.
6 million Jews? Maybe.
My curiosity is peaked. So you're saying you would do that? And you're saying that we wouldn't? I'm not trying to.
I'm
understand where
saying
you're
that you
coming
would not be willing. So
from. I'm asking
you're
if
arguing.
you
And
would.
here's
I'm
the
asking if
thing.
you would.
You're
I'm asking
arguing.
if you
Oh,
would.
so genocide.
Answer
Okay, so you're
first,
arguing that
answer
United
first,
States
and
should
then
step
you
in.
can-
No,
you can-
so
I'm
I
saying
want to
you're
clarify
saying
what
niggas
Lactoid
can't
is saying.
serve and don't want to serve. I'm
No,
asking
no,
if you would.
What the fuck are you talking about? I never said that. I'm literally
did.
saying that
implied that.
You're in better shape. You'll be a
saying-
better
you're
soldier
better
than
shape.
me.
You are
You are
saying-
Giga Chat? Are you
I'm gonna drag down my unit.
Let me
Are you
just
gonna
make
let
this
me
clear,
running into
Lactoid.
fire?
Let me make this clear, Lactoid, that any genocide committed across any country in the world, you'd be
Okay.
willing to step on that soil, regardless of whether or not they attacked any other country. You'd be willing to step on that soil and protect the citizens that were being murdered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The United States is
Fuck
justified.
no, what the
The
fuck?
United
No,
States.
no, not the United
Can I-
States.
let me
You.
finish.
You.
Yeah. So
Wait. So are you against? Well, I really want to know about.
So
this.
I'm talking about like this
So
as
you're
a
saying
as
the
a,
United
as a,
States of America
Okay, wait. Whether or
should
not
literally
whether,
step in to every
Sir,
single country that
sir,
murders its own citizens.
Okay.
Don't let this stop.
So
Don't let this stop,
whether or not.
I just want to make sure that.
Oh my God,
I-
Giga. People have to answer. Space to answer
Sir.
you.
Okay. Whether or not I personally would have like the courage to actually go out and do it is irrelevant to what I think as a political actor the United States should do.
He's
I
Canadian,
do
so the answer is no.
believe the United States should, or it is justified if we can win, to stop genocides around the world using military force if we have to. That includes
So
the
you're saying we should
Holocaust.
get involved.
That includes the killing fields in Cambodia. That includes saving the Ukrainians from the Russians. And
Is
the communists.
everybody else in agreement on this? Is everybody in
That's
agreement with Lactoid here?
Everyone
I think
here
you-
agrees
you
we
think
should
the
stop.
United States
of
Maybe
America
not
should
Scott.
step in.
Giga. We're a meme hour, so I have a question, friend. All right, you have a time machine. You're going back to 1700. I just want to know what side you end up on. Oh, you have all this knowledge.
Fuck.
You're going back to 1700. What are we? Are you unions?
Whoa, should we invade the South? Actually, hold on. Should the Union have
1700?
invaded? Hold on.
Should the Union have invaded the South? Is my
Well, that's
question.
that's
The fact that he's
1863.
fucking
Fucking
thinking about it.
1861,
Yeah,
bro.
not-
You're so far away.
Not quite, but
I gave him a buffer so he has enough time to like make a calculus. He's got the Constitution.
So by this
No, he's
logic, are
gonna
you
be in a
guys,
walker by then.
by
you know what I
this
mean?
logic, are you
True.
guys willing to get United States
Answer the question. You
soldiers
shut
in
the
Ukraine?
fuck up.
No, you gotta answer the question.
you
Giga.
coward. Answer
Giga,
the
you've been
question, you
asking
coward.
people questions. Answer
Answer
this
the question. Would you join the Union to fight the Confederacy? Answer the question.
Too
We'll answer
hypothetical.
anything you
Too
want.
hypothetical.
Or is that
Yeah.
too far?
Yeah, he doesn't engage in bizarre hypotheticals.
Oh my God, just
No,
answer the
so-
question.
No,
Wait, so yes?
but that's entirely true though, Coke. Like you're asking me what I would do under the circumstances. You know what the
Is it
actual
yes?
reality of it? The
Is it
reality
yes?
it'd be
Is the answer
whether
yes?
I was born in a particular
answer
state or
yes?
another, because I would be the product of my environment. That's the actual answer that none of you want to face. And
No, he's right.
Which
he's
is
right,
why.
actually.
That's
No,
honestly,
and
Shut up,
if you want
Jimmy.
to
that's
argue
honestly not
otherwise,
that dumb
you're a
of a
fucking
take.
idiot.
That's
Ah,
honestly
no,
You
not
he's
want
that
to
actually-
be
dumb.
he's
your environment,
absolutely
and whether
right.
you
No.
live in one state or the other, that is
feeding
the
the
answer.
fire.
Doobie.
Interesting.
Why-
Wait,
why
hold
is he
on.
right?
No, he's well because if you're unless you're asking like if you were to take himself and just like time travel back there.
Yes.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Well,
saying.
if-
He's
so
gonna
I think-
literally
I think his
have
question-
hypothetical arms.
Okay,
He's gonna go
wait, hold
back.
on. So
I'm
wait,
gonna
please.
be very
So if
clear
that's
about this
hypothetical, it'd be a little different. I'm guessing, right? So
I
Giga,
mean-
if you were like
Correct.
if you were like teleported
If I
back
time
then,
traveled as
with your
I am
current
now,
set of morality and
course,
what-
yes.
Yeah, with that
Yeah,
tight
of
shirt and
No,
that
no,
dumbass
Doobie.
contrarian
No,
smile.
Doobie,
But
you're
But if I was
you're-
born,
you're
do
wrong.
you expect me like that? That's the thing.
He's saying from his current. He's saying from
you're
his current
arguing-
point of view.
Yeah.
From my
that's what I'm
current
saying.
point of view,
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
he
gonna go
is.
back. Yes, I'm saying explicitly, you're gonna go back there with your Giga Tad, too tight shirt. You gotta get a little like an extra size there, King. But it's all good. There's no women in this space, so I don't know who you're trying to impress. Maybe some men, but anyway,
impressing
you're
me.
going
It looks
back
really good.
there.
I think you're
going
hot.
back
It's
there
fine.
with that
Don't worry about it.
I'm
contrarian-ass
also
smile.
We all think you're hot.
And
Go
those
ahead.
pretty eye and those pretty eyes and that chiseled jaw.
Joe-
obviously,
Joe's being a
so
bitch.
once
Lizard
again,
brain.
I am the
Going
product
back.
of my environment. Okay, I'm against slavery. I'm against all the travesties. I'm against the Holocaust.
Is that the
I
only
will fight
reason?
on that behalf, right?
So you would
is that the only-
join the Union or the Confederacy?
Yeah, he just said the Union. Yeah,
You said
Okay,
Union?
yeah,
Okay.
but how?
but
do you
I think
say
the
that?
question was the question he was answering earlier was if he were born in fucking the 1800s or whatever, right? And it would really depend where he grew up, what he was exposed to,
Correct.
what his culture was, who his father was. All these things would influence which side he'd fight on. And that
No.
he's right.
Also,
like I don't know why you guys are
Which-
just waiting.
which-
on-
which-
Which
Doobie-
ties
also for the
back
record-
which ties
also
back
for
into
the
the
record-
morality of
also
it,
for
which
the
ties
record,
back into the morality
there
of
are
it,
no
which
good
only
guys in the
proves my
Civil War.
point, which only
Oh
proves
my
my point
God.
against the
We'll get into
against
that
Scott.
later.
Which only
Wait,
proves
wait,
my
wait,
point
wait.
against Scott. The
I think
people
we're slaves,
fighting on
so-
behalf of the Confederacy did not morally believe that they were in the wrong.
But they were still in the wrong. Okay, but hold on, Doobie. I want to.
We believe that. We believe that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
who are you to say now for the
Who
United
am
States
I?
of America? Yes.
Who am I to say slavery's bad?
Who are you to say,
I'm
for example,
Lactoid.
over in the Middle East? Who are you to say, for
Fucking
example, over in the
Lactoid.
Middle East?
Well,
Who are you to say in the
Giga,
Middle
Giga.
East?
He wants to shift. to
Wait.
the Middle East because
Giga is
he
getting to
doesn't
the
wanna talk about America.
Giga is getting to the point right now where Doobie, you must
Okay,
understand.
let me ask you a question. Here's another fun question. Here's another question.
Doobie, this is where you misunderstand
Do you
Giga.
think North Korea should have nuclear weapons?
He doesn't want to talk about America.
I
because
prefer
it's
them to not
complicated.
have nuclear weapons. No, because they're
Why?
terrible.
Why? Because you're morally against North Korea and how they.
Yes,
Yeah.
'cause I'm morally-
Exactly. Because you think they shouldn't. Because you think
Yes.
they shouldn't.
He
I
thinks
do-
this
I
is some
do
kind of
think
dunk.
they should
This is really
not.
funny.
What about you? Do you
And
think they
because
should?
you think they shouldn't,
Do you think they
because
should have
you
nukes?
think they shouldn't have nukes.
Do you think they should have nukes?
I think that unless they show an aggression towards another country and acted on it, I don't give
Which
a fuck
they
what someone
did?
thinks.
They
Korean
invaded the
War.
South.
The
Yes.
Korean War.
Korean
And
War.
we've
I
invaded
hope
fucking
you're doing
people
well.
before too.
I hope you're doing
Oh
well,
my
dude.
god.
Okay, all right.
Toward
Wait,
those
hold on.
days.
Maybe
I don't know.
You're only
I
proving
understand.
my
Can I ask
point.
you?
You keep
Wait, so
proving my
Giga,
point over and
would
over
you
and
say-
over again.
would you
and when
say that you
people
should never-
across the
Okay,
globe
Giga,
do
wait one
not
second.
agree, and yet you have
Giga
this sense of
Christ.
morality as innate.
Yeah,
to every human
Giga,
being.
Giga,
Not.
I get it.
Jimmy.
Wait, so Giga, would you say that you should never like impose your morality upon other people, upon other nation?
It depends on if we're in the United States of America or not.
Oh, there
If
it
we are
is.
in the United,
well,
that's
then-
the point I've fucking been making the whole time, you idiot.
Well, then, yeah, I agree. Then I agree with him, right? So we should absolutely. I'm sure I'd find way more circumstances where I think it's absolutely okay to impose my morality upon other people, as the nation of the United States. Absolutely.
As a citizen of the United States of America, yes, we have adopted certain standards that we can describe as moral. If I step foot in Russia, for example, or North Korea, the morality changes.
Okay, but it's a hard question about whether or not we should invade to stop a Holocaust.
Let me-
right?
He's
That's a
become
tough question.
content, Prime. He's
Real
become
quick,
content.
real quick,
What would you like to do?
Real
here?
quick.
A Holocaust.
Real
6
quick.
million Jews.
Real
Do we
quick.
just
Tough question.
pull everybody
Listen,
into,
listen,
into the main lobby
listen,
and then just
Listen for a second, okay? What you are saying when you say that morals are not universalizable is that you are saying that you do not believe in the law of non-contradiction in logic, okay? And so Gigadatum, let me walk you through this, why this is wrong, okay? Jane exists as Jane. And then I say this statement, Jane exists as Brian. We recognize that Jane cannot exist as Jane and Jane exist as Brian because it's not possible, because the two statements contradict each other. So when you say murder is wrong, it cannot be validly true that murder is right somewhere else because this creates a contradiction. So the moment you say that morals are not universalizable, what you say is, I do not believe in the law of logic and that everything
make any
is
sense,
a meaningless opinion. It makes perfect
that
sense.
doesn't-
It's the grounding
because-
of fucking
because typically
logic.
when
You're
people-
missing the whole
Typically, when
fucking
people
point.
say that killing another person is wrong, they don't mean in every circumstance possible, right? They're talking about a certain specific set of circumstances.
No, you're
Right, so-
you're obscuring. You're
And
obscuring.
once
because-
again, you fail to realize you're talking about one
Oh,
extreme
no, I'm not
example,
failing
which,
to
which
realize
is,
shit
which is
here.
which is murder.
Trust
okay,
me.
but again,
I'm fucking
so
way
you're
up
saying-
here, and you
so
guys are way
let me
down here in
ask
this
you
shit.
a question. Let me ask you a question. All right. So, for example, so in the Middle East, Muslims, most of them against
He
the
really wants to go to the
LGBTQ
Middle East.
community.
This is really cool.
Because again, that's what topics we just come out of my head. So, are you saying that they are morally in the wrong?
Really cool.
Morally in the wrong in their own country, born and raised, believe Muslim ideology, that they are morally wrong to be against the LGBTQ community?
I can't speak for people who support Islam, but let me ask my girlfriend to see.
I'm asking
She'll probably call
Scott
you
in
white
their
guy,
own
so
country,
I don't
in
know
their
if you're
own
ready for
country,
that.
are they morally in the wrong to oppose the LGBTQ community for religious reasons?
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know what you mean by oppose the LGBT community.
Discriminate against.
Can we just say what he's getting at? Okay, so yeah, so wait, so hold on, wait, please. Can I
explain?
people
Let me
being
explain. I was
gay.
asked
Jesus
a question. I was asked a question, right? So again, what country they're in is irrelevant. If you're saying something is morally wrong,
so then
it's
just
morally
answer it.
wrong everywhere or right somewhere. But when you say being
So then
against the
answer
LGBT,
it.
Giga, try and follow.
No. Answer it.
So,
do you think
no.
they are
I'm
morally
answering.
wrong?
I'm answering.
I want you to
Giga,
answer it from
Giga,
your perspective.
Giga,
Then
Giga, I'm answering your question. I just have to walk you through why your question's stupid. Okay, so when you say be against is a very open term. Now, you can hate a group of people, and there's nothing that I can prove is morally wrong about that. You can be against them and say, I don't advocate for them. There's nothing morally wrong against that. You can choose to self-segregate in your own society and say, we don't allow these people to come into our community. But the moment you commit an act of aggression against people for any reason, including them being gay, for example, right? That is morally wrong, no matter
your
where it is in
definition
the
ties
world.
hand in hand with aggression. It really does.
Yeah, because it's the only thing that I can prove absolutely.
So I want you to answer
morally
the question.
wrong.
I want you to answer the question. Do you believe that people are morally in the wrong in those countries who are against the LGBTQ community?
Bitch, I just answered this question.
No, you
and
didn't.
explained
You did
why
not.
it's
You did
retarded.
not. You fucking you spun around it so hard, bro. I want
Your
you to
inability
know
to-
yes or no. Why
Your
is it so hard
inability
to
to
get
follow me
yes
is
or no?
not going on.
Spit it. Spit on it.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yes or no?
So I guess the right.
there
I
is
think
no
the
yes
answer.
or no.
Oh God.
Like, no. Shut the fuck up. There is no yes or no to a question that's that open ended. I
And
explained
yet,
how there are
morality is
multiple.
universal. Should be yes or no. That's your whole
Dog.
point. It should be this
Dog.
simple, black and white.
You need a one-on-one
Dog.
cover.
That's
to
literally
see
the point
like,
you've been making this whole time.
Dog, you have no idea what my point is at this point. It's too far.
Because
over
you
your
haven't
fucking head.
answered the question.
To be fair,
I
Fady,
did.
you do talk a lot, Fady.
With
You do
detail.
talk a lot. So his brain seems a little tiny. So I'm not able to process all the words. But it's
Doobie.
okay, you know.
I mean,
He's
I can
got the
repeat it
smile,
for
he's
you.
got the
I
look.
can repeat it for
Grow
you.
a pair and
Being
answer the
against-
question. Those people,
Grow
are
up.
they
Dude,
morally in the wrong?
Dude,
Scott, he's totally just
My-
chatting over you right now.
oh my
You are
God,
just
this
getting
is so
amazing.
fucking stupid.
You are
It's
getting
amazing.
fucked
Bogged
right
by
now.
that
So
jawline.
let me explain to you again, right? Because you didn't get it the first time. So let's go through this again. When you say to be against, that entails multiple different behaviors and actions. And what I said is that from what I can prove to be morally unjustifiable is acts of aggression. Okay? Okay, so the
So,
acts of aggression against the LGBT
assuming there
are
was
wrong
acts of aggression.
everywhere. Right. So for
Assuming there
example, stoning gay people, right? Let's take a specific act saying, found out you were gay and we stoned you. I don't give a fuck what your religion is, who you are, what cult you're fucking in. It's morally wrong everywhere in the world and everywhere in the goddamn
Thank
universe.
you for finally clarifying.
Bitch, I told you the first time. Like I said.
You actually
like,
never did.
Doobie,
I
Doobie,
really
Doobie,
fucking did.
Doobie.
Look
Yeah.
what you did, Doobie.
But how's this my fault? What the fuck? I think what Giga's looking for, right, is that I think from their perspective within their society, it would actually be a good thing. It'd be moral to throw a gay person off a roof, right? So
Yeah, and they're wrong.
So this is just
That's
like
your
clashing,
opinion!
Wrong.
clashing,
No, it's
clashing
fact, bitch.
perspectives on morality, right? This is all humanity is, right? So people have different opinions about what right and wrong is, and we fight over them.
Thank you,
and,
Doobie.
And the person
No.
who's the strongest wins. That's how it wins. Absolutely.
Morals are universalizable.
No!
And you
Bullshit.
can prove.
Bullshit.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
No, they're
Dude,
not.
all of you right now are denying the existence of logic, and therefore
I'm
incapable
denying the existence
making
of
any
objective morality.
propositional statements.
I can
there's no
absolutely
difference between
justify
you
aggression.
and baby talk. No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Okay,
Content.
why is
Stop showing
aggression
the
always
content.
unjustified?
Why is Russian always
Why
unjustified?
is aggression always unjustified?
Because it's impossible to argue in favor of aggression without also establishing
How?
a moral principle that you do not do that.
This is a larger
How does
Yeah,
that?
Corey
That's
Campbell and
like-
I went through this before.
Yeah.
Like,
I will fully
So,
concede.
I
Like
mean-
he has to walk you through it.
it's a
but,
really
can you
long
translate?
process.
Do you speak ANCAP and Capanese? I don't know what.
I don't want to miss like
This
I don't want to
isn't like an
misrepresent
ANCAP
like
thing. This is like
It's a Fabian
Okay.
Scott thing.
So when you
So the
they're in the
military
best
should
position,
always-
absolutely.
So the military should
you-
always be reactionary. Is that your argument?
calm down, Kathy Newman. So when you
I don't know what
say
that is,
right,
might be
I
Yeah,
should.
I don't get the reference.
When you say I
I want
should,
to know what the
I
reference
should.
is.
When you say that I should slap you, right? And why haven't you slapped me? Right? It is morally good to slap me. People should go around slapping each other, right? Or, for example, when you say that we should lock up nonviolent drug offenders that haven't committed any acts of aggression, right? The problem is that you're speaking to me, and by speaking to me, you're engaging in argumentation. And while you engage in argumentation, you are establishing a moral norm that you recognize that I have exclusive control over my body and that I have exclusive control over the scarce resources of my mind. And so in order to advocate for that act of aggression, you're engaged in what is oh God, now I can't think of the term. It's a non-contradiction, but it's oh my God.
Scott,
It's too
Scott,
fucking late.
if
If
performative
morality
contradiction,
was
sorry.
universal,
So it's a
why is
performative
it that
contradiction.
we have
Wait, can we-
done an about face on slavery
So-
and even the LGBTQ community?
because it was monetarily the right thing to do at the time, but that's a
So-
totally different
So
conversation.
when you're engaged in a performative contradiction,
Really, what
so
kind of
an example-
monetary incentive is there for Californians, for example, even less than 20 decades ago,
God.
to vote against gay marriage?
I mean, they also had slaves.
Where is this conversation
too,
even going?
in a
Oh my
free-
God.
I
I
don't think he's
okay,
listening to you, Scott.
Giga, even if
He's not listening.
Giga, even if you agree that like your morality is subjective, why can't
is
we all
subjective.
why can't we also agree with the idea that we should impose our morality on other people who have
Morality is
bad,
not subjective,
who have-
motherfucker.
who have
not
bad
possible.
who have bad subjective moral
No,
beliefs.
it's
So-
not.
So for example, like killing Jews, I would consider to be a bad thing to do.
Depends
And
on the
I-
circumstance.
right?
do we-
Right, black
shut
people,
the- shut
pretty
the fuck up,
bad,
dude.
right?
And if I have more guns than you, then I can stop you from killing Jews by force. Wouldn't you agree that I should do this?
That's an act of
Wait, hold on,
aggression, so no.
but like other people, there are plenty of situations where
Giga Datum coming around. There you go, buddy.
Or Iraqis or Muslims or whatever. Right? We could all come up with hypothetical circumstances where it would actually be good to kill these people, to kill any people.
Stop.
Right? So don't say it's always bad across the board, because it's not.
Okay, but how the Nazis did it was wrong. You would agree?
Sure.
Okay.
Again,
so we
sure,
should
but
we
from
so
my-
we should have
Whoa,
stopped
whoa,
them.
whoa, whoa, hold on, Lactoid. Yes, wrong from my subjective perspective
and-
that I'd like to impose upon them.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And I can, and because we are in charge of the most powerful military on
you're
the planet, we
Doobie.
can enforce it on them, can't we?
No,
From the mon-
Doobie,
from the
Well,
mon-
not if we have free
Doobie, you're
healthcare.
And I
full
think
of
we should.
shit.
Yeah, not if we have free
You're full of
healthcare.
Doobie, you're using the term killing and murder interchangeably as if they're the
No, I don't
exact
think
same
I am.
thing. Yes, you are. You're using the term
You're
killing and murder.
using
like,
murder. I started using killing because I think murder is like that implies it is unjustified. Whereas I think
Exactly.
that there are plenty. Yeah. Well, I think again.
So
I think there are
do
plenty
you
of places where
agree
killing
that there
person
are
would be-
unjustified? Do you agree that there are unjustified killings?
This is TOS Prime. Be careful, friend. But-
Again, it depends on the perspective, right?
No.
So for
No.
example,
So you believe that there's no
Oh
such
my
thing
God,
as murder?
please.
Doobie, according to your according to
the
your
justification.
perspective.
I think the justification is in the eye of the beholder, right? So, a serial killer who enjoys murdering people, right, who enjoys killing people, goes around just raping and killing a dozen people because they get some kind of pleasure for it. From their perspective, this was a justified act. From my perspective, this was an unjustified act.
Okay,
Again, a clash of belief systems.
You don't get to
and
have
because-
your own truth, bitch. The truth
Okay,
is the
but this
truth.
is-
Bitch.
No, that's not how that
no,
works. That's
Jimmy,
not how humanity works.
Yes, it is.
No, so
That's how
no, it's not.
reality
No,
works.
no, there's
There's not multiple truths that
This-
can be
this is
true
the
at the same goddamn time.
this is the
That's
conflict.
not how.
Okay.
Even
No,
if even
okay.
even if even
What
if
we're
subject,
saying
even
is
if it's
true
subjective,
from our
Doobie.
perspective. This is not objectively true.
Okay, but even if that's the case, Doobie, we're asking you for your we're not expecting you to speak for anybody else's opinion other than your own. So when we say Doobie, killing the Jews,
no. The whole point was Scott was saying that it was universal. That's not.
Right.
That's exactly what we had in the scenario in the first place.
I get it. Scott's saying it's
You're not
universal.
asking our opinions. You're assuming the opinions and morality of others. That's the whole reason we're in this mess.
No. So I understand Scott was saying from an objective point of view, but even from the subjective point of view, Giga, you could be perfectly okay with invading Germany. I just want to get you on board with invading Germany to stop the Holocaust, right? If I can get you there, I will have won here today, and life would be better. Can you just concede that? Concede that, please.
But some of the Nazis were good people.
Fuck.
But okay, I think what Giga would say is that from the Nazis' perspectives, putting the Jews in the concentration camps was a good thing. It was.
They're the losers. Why do I care about their perspective?
Okay, that's the Chad thing to say. Okay,
that's what I'm saying. They lost
because they lose, so got fucked, right? So because we went overseas, we shot them until they agreed with us. That's absolutely what we should do.
Over a good thing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Great.
I think we got it.
Now just get Giga to agree, and then we'll be on board, and then everything.
I don't think he's going to agree. He's going to milk this content for as long as possible.
Okay, Giga, I'll ask you the question directly. Okay, so we can move off.
What's the question? Go ahead.
Okay. You are president. Okay, you are president in the the period of World War II. I always forget the years. I'm sorry, I'm bad at dates. But yeah, I'm president during the years of World War II. And you got to make a decision, right? Are you going to send troops in to stop the Nazis? You're aware of the Holocaust, and you believe it's a wrong thing, right? It's a bad thing. Are you going to send American troops to stop it?
Here's a question for you guys.
No.
This is going to answer your question. It's going to answer your question.
Giga. I need a yes or no. I don't need a question from you. Giga.
Answer your question. Scott was able to do this. Let me do it.
Prime is the moderator. He
Scott's
has
terrible.
here.
Scott's terrible. I'm constantly Scott is a constant headache to me.
Did the United States of America get involved?
Don't be
Did the
Scott.
United States of America get involved prior to the Holocaust occurring?
Hey, jacked Joel Osteen, answer the fucking question.
It's a genuine question. Did the United States become militarily involved prior to the start of the Holocaust?
Just keep answering it again. Just keep asking the question on the loop prime. It's the only way forward.
I don't think they did. But okay. Look, just please.
I'm
changing history.
I'm
changing history, okay? Right? You are president during the entirety of the Holocaust, right? From start to finish, you're president, okay? You're in office. It's your fucking decision.
I'll give you my honest fucking answer.
Yeah.
I'll give you my honest answer. You want my fucking honest answer? I'll give you my fucking honest answer. My honest answer is I don't give a flying fuck what happens in other countries as long as if they are not an ally of the United States of America or they are not attacking the United States of America. I don't give a fuck. You can do whatever the hell you want to do in your own country.
No.
Okay. All right. So we
I do not
Attribution principle.
I am not about to right every wrong on the planet. I want to have a good life. I don't give a fuck.
Okay. Got it.
And until you guys can actually look in the mirror, you're hypocrites anyways, because none of you are going to go fight for Ukraine. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but we pay taxes for other people to go do it.
That's true.
Yep.
That's
none of you guys are. And again, you guys argue as if you would actually put boots on the ground in Ukraine and you would fucking start World War III over it.
Well, hold on.
You're moronic.
You're moronic. I think the proxy war there is beneficial to the
said
US.
That.
Right?
Lactoid actually said that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put boots on the ground. I just don't give a fuck about Ukraine.
You would put boots on the ground. You would put boots on the ground in Ukraine and start World War III.
So bad. Okay, it's okay. Look, Giga. If you wanna,
he didn't just say he wouldn't stop the Holocaust.
Yeah, right.
Really cool.
Lacto is the evil one here.
He just has a big smile on his face.
If they had invaded,
listen,
I believe they had already invaded Poland by that time. I don't know the timeline of when the Holocaust happens, but there's a reason why, motherfucker, that we did not invade Germany the moment the Holocaust started.
Yelling. We just got done with poly people, done calling people Nazis. This isn't good.
You guys criticize me, and yet
we're moving on.
You guys criticize me, and then the United States did not get involved until Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, motherfucker.
We think it was political reasons why. Giga, I can go through this with you.
Yeah, because we let them do it
in the open panel. We
On
can
purpose.
like we'll have open panel after this. The content doesn't end. You at home, all right? This we can have more of this content. Okay, if you want to continue on this, I have patience, right? I've been dealing with Scott for fucking months, for like over a year now, I think. So I have patience for people like you, okay? So if you want to continue this, we have that space. Everyone stick around. We're not done. I'm gonna give an outro to all these amazing individuals. And then we'll go on. But before then, guys, if you have liked the content, hit that follow button. If you haven't done so yet, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on. You know I'm going live. Also, consider helping out the channel by subbing to the channel, just $5. It does a whole bunch for the channel. It allows me to gather these individuals. It makes me patient, right? When I'm getting paid, it makes me patient with these people. I'm less patient when I'm not. So support the channel. $5 subscription. You'll get our emotes, you'll get ad-free viewing, and you'll allow me to do all this for all of you. All right, subs to the channel, get bits or gift subs. Use your Amazon Prime Gaming on the channel. If you haven't done so yet, use it here. Okay, we're gonna give an outro, but remember, hey, thank you for the 500 bits, and someone else, I think it was the Nubbins, for gifting. For resubbing. Yay. Okay. Well, we're close to a hype train. If we get another person who supports during the next 3 minutes, we can start ourselves a hype train. That'd be great. Subs to the channel, get bits, and give subs. Support what we're trying to do. Okay, I'm gonna give an outro to these kind of individuals. And they deserve it. They deserve it for everything that they've gone through. Lactoid, you hero. Please. Oh, thank you, Watercat, for the 200 bits. Please give yourself an outro, buddy.
This was one of the most entertaining panels that I've been on. I want to just thank all the panelists who not only bit bullets, but thought of the bullets to bite before I could. That's a new level of just incredible behavior. Truly an incredible panel. Thank you guys so much. If you liked what I had to say, you can find me on Anti-Communism United on Discord, Twitch, and YouTube, or Anti-Com United on Twitter.
Okay. Thank you so much. I like to. I always really appreciate your perspective. Like, I think you, I love the way you argue. So I comparing that to our friend Scott. Scott, thanks for being here, buddy. I do appreciate. This was a new one for us all, right? New faces, new interactions. I'm loving it. Scott.
Yeah, I'm Scott from Fabian Liberty. You can find us pretty much everywhere. Fabian Liberty, if you search it. Yeah, it was fun. Nice to meet you, Gigadatum. You know, every panel needs the brains and the bronze, and I think we know which is which in this situation. And it was great. You know, I look forward to more.
Bronze. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. And guys, we're
there was a bit of a pause and confusion, but like I was gonna wrap up some other statements. But
sorry, go ahead.
My arguments are so fucking based and good that I don't need to do that in an outro, unlike other people. Yeah.
Guys, we are on a hype train. 40% down, 60% left. Help us get to a level 2 hype train. You've been loving this content. You've been sitting here. I know you've been sitting here loving this content. Consider helping us out. Subscribe to the channel, getting bits of giving subs. So make sure you get more of this content. This wouldn't have happened without all the other people who've been powering this channel. So help power it into the future. So you can have more of these fantastic moments. Fantastic is the outage we'll use today. Okay. Let's go to Corey.
Yeah, I'll just say I like that we started with talking about pharmaceuticals and we just ended at the Holocaust, I guess, which par for the course for a panel, I suppose. And what I would say, even though I was on the panel, I don't think I contributed to the entertainment, but I would totally agree that this was a very highly entertaining panel. And I'll wrap up by saying on topic, abolish IP. And that healthcare should be free and available to everyone. And so I'm Corey Campbell. You can find me on twitch.tv, CoreyCampbell84. I do workout streams. I cover science because I'm a scientist. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. Literally, it's Corey Campbell. And yeah, always appreciate and I'm grateful to be here.
Hey, thank you. We're at level 2 hype train, almost done. 80% done, 20% left because of a very kind person. We'll get to that person later. But Oh, but 92% because someone else is being kind for resubbing. 0 arms, thank you for that. 93%, 7% left. 4 minutes on the clock. Can we get to level 3 hype chain? We're almost there. Level 3 hype chain. Support the channel, guys. This is how we do it. How we make the magic happen. Okay. So we're gonna go to Giga. Giga, look, I'm gonna tell you something. Right. I love you. Right. You.
Me too, but
I'm going to pledge my allegiance to you. You have done something great today. You have gotten under Scott's skin, right? Scott, the perennial antagonist of my panel, you have managed to get under this man's skin. And for anyone who can do that, I mean, you can't be that bad, right? I mean, in fact, you're probably a genius. Like for proving your chat abilities, right? But proving who's the alpha here. I prime.
How much you gotta pump this guy up, man? I didn't realize he did so bad.
Prime, give you my loyalty. Apparently,
right on, man.
You weren't able to prove your alpha status to me, right? But Giga did. So Giga, please go ahead.
So a lot of fun. I actually do current events politics on my channel. Yes, I do have a like Giga Chad approach to it, persona. That's why I put a disclaimer at the start of every stream, to be honest. But and you know, sort of slunk into character here. I do you know, inherently believe I might have exaggerated a few points, but yes, I'm a centrist through and through, and that can piss pretty much anybody off, and you saw that today. So inevitably, though, just got my commercial pilots license, used to be in stunts and live entertainment for the last 10 years, which is where you get a lot of that flair from as well. But thank you guys for having me. Dude, Prime, I appreciate you coming on my debate royales. If anybody else is obviously interested in doing my debate royales, it is once again both constructive but also entertaining because we just throw together political activists and just, well, pretty much everybody and it's on e-girls, you whatnot. And it makes for some interesting conversations, to say the least. So that's what I enjoy doing. I love to discuss and have good debates, but also at the same time, yeah, I think far too many people take things too seriously these days. No offense, Joe. And at the end of the day, you know, I just like having a good time and be able to discuss things.
Thank you so much. And I can attest, you know, I've been on Giga's panel a few times. It's a lot of fun. It's a completely different atmosphere than what you get here. It's super contentious, but it's a lot of fun. So if anyone here wanted to join, yeah, I would recommend. And guys, 90 seconds on the clock. Help us get to level 3 hype chain. We're literally almost there. 7% left. Get us over that bump, okay? 90 seconds. Substitute channel, give bits or give subs. Use your Amazon Prime Gaming. It's a free sub from you, but it does a lot for us. It helps us power this thing. So, substitute channel, give bits or give subs. Gotta keep saying it. We have less than a minute left. Help us get to a level 3 hype train. Need that help. Or resub. Yeah, resub. Cake. Cake, thank you for here, right? And look, I've never had so many men flex on my channel ever, right? This has just never happened. This is beautiful, right? This brings in the ladies. We need the help, all right? So thank you, Cake, for being here as well.
Yeah, glad to be the sex appeal. But I want to jump back actually to the first topic. Why are you laughing, Giga? Come on, man. You got a great jawline, but the beard is better than the clean shave look. The ladies go.
You know why men have beards?
Okay, we'll talk later. We'll talk later.
Because they don't have a fucking jawline.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, you got
pretty
me.
much.
You got me.
You have to contour one. You have to contour one with your own fucking facial hair.
All right, fair enough. Let me finish. I want to jump back to the first topic we talked about today. So Scott rightfully pointed out that I was making wild assertions, and I did want to mention I actually did some research for this panel, and I was looking into any legal cases where people were fired for using or refusing to use pronouns, and I came across 5 or 6 cases, 2 of which were in the U.S. and the others were in the UK and Ireland, where doctors and teachers were fired for refusing to use pronouns. Dr. David Macarith in the UK was fired for not honoring his patients' pronouns. Peter Vlaming was fired for not in Virginia for not using one of his students' pronouns correctly. And I bring this up to point out that finally all of these cases were either dismissed in the courts or are currently undergoing appeals after dismissal. So they were either outright dismissed or dismissed and now in appeals. And the only exception that I could find being another Virginia case filed by the ADF. Supreme Court last year affirmed a lower court ruling that required Loudoun County Public Schools to reinstate a teacher who was suspended after he spoke at a school board meeting in opposition to a proposed policy requiring teachers to use pronouns used by transgender students. Long story short, he spoke at a school board meeting and the school fired him, and the courts ruled that that was a violation of his free speech. All the other instances of the teachers refusing to use students' pronouns was ruled a violation of school policy and therefore not a violation of their rights, but the teachers being in violation of school policy. And I feel that that is a firm reason to believe that these teachers are not within their rights to not call students by their preferred pronouns. The end.
Thank you, Kate.
Hey, Prime.
Yes.
I don't ever want to hear you bitch about my intros and outros again.
But Scott,
I was dying to get that in earlier and I couldn't.
Scott, you've gone longer. Let's go to our.
I always go longer.
Okay. Let's go. That was good. Joe Lewis, thank you for being here, friend. At the end, you were just simply trolling, but still trolling like an MVP. All right, so, Joe Lewis, thanks for being around.
Listen, I assessed the environment and I realized that the only thing that could come out is pain. So I just said, fuck it. Like, I'll just do what everybody else does. Just practice talking and say whatever. It was a lot of fun. Just for clarification, Tanner Cross was suspended, never fired. And the reason why, like, among others, is that there was no real clear evidence that the way he participated would interfere with his ability to do his job. So, and plus he was also, like, your speech is protected at school board meetings. So, like, that's basically like the gist of that. But yeah, like, topics were fun. I don't know why GigaChat, this fucking dude thinks I'm upset. Like, I've been doing panels for like 3 years now. I've seen people also deny the Holocaust, say that black people are genetically superior, and all this other crazy shit on the internet. So you're just one other dude in the sea of, like, people practicing talking. But hey, if you need more representation on your panel, because you probably don't have a lot of black people, give me a call. We'll have a chat and talk.
Bro.
So feel free to follow me at twitch.tv/Joe Lewis with 2 O's. I mean, it's funny. I can probably go back to your VODs and support that claim. But all right, it's all fun. All fun and good. You guys are funny. Hope you can participate more, Cake. And hope you're doing well, Corey.
Thank you very much. You too.
Everybody else is funny. You guys are good. Yeah.
Hey, token stat isn't so bad, okay? All right. Good. I've never held that against you. All right. So let's go.
What? It's not even a thing.
I'm just saying, look, it's okay. All right, like
was there not three on my fucking panel?
I will be your black. Okay.
Was there not 3 black people on my last panel?
Whoa, 3. I don't know how many panels.
Was there 3? No, there was 2.
We got
was
3
there?
of them.
No, there was 3.
There was
There
Ice, there was you, and there was whatever. Yeah, so yeah, there was.
You're counting them now.
It's hilarious.
Well, apparently I have to count that motherfucker.
I got 1 black, 2 black, 3 blacks.
I swear, I have a black friend. I swear.
Damn, that was a beautiful play of the race card. That was good. Haven't seen it done so effectively and so vitriolically before.
Let's go to our friend, our Dark Lord and Savior, Doobie, who was so kind, gets a 10 subs to the channel. Doobie's always been a good friend to me personally and the channel in general. Thank you, Doobie, for all this and for the great fight you put up in. I like when you really jump in and get your hands dirty. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, I'm Doobie. I am a National Socialist, Nazi, and I love Hitler. And I help run the politics server on Discord, discord.gg/politics. You will find me and all my Nazi friends there. It's a great place. Black people are bullied. So if you're white, you have lots of fun. Discord.gg/politics.
All right. So expect Doobie in chat to get his visit his Discord. Thank you all. This has been an experience. Experience for us.
Thank you all. Love you all.
We are going to continue right? Content doesn't end. We're going to see you into a walk-on panel right after this. So if anyone here wants to join us, we would love to have you. All right, and you want to keep going. If you have the stamina to keep on going, I would love to have you to keep up the fight. But if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion in my community. I know they appreciate it just as much as I do. Have a good one. Bye.
Oh, it's a
All right,
pleasure.
See you guys. Reach out for sure.
Hey,
Thanks for the panel.
night.
Oh boy.